Let's see, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, there it is.
And welcome. On behalf of Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead, City Commission, Manager Fuentes, and staff, welcome to the business meeting of the City Commission of the City of Truth and Consequences. It is now 9:02 on April 11th, 2018. If you have any type of electronic device on your person that's going to make a noise and disturb the meeting, I'd appreciate it if you put it in silent mode. With that said, Madam Clerk, can we have our roll call, please?
Honorable Steve Green.
Here.
Honorable Sandra Whitehead. Here. Honorable Kathy Clark.
Here.
Honorable Ralph Heschler.
Here.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is silent meditation. Please join me in 15 seconds of silent meditation, please. Thank you. Manager Fuentes, please stand for the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is approval of the agenda, and as a public service to our citizens, I would like to suggest that we move item C, which is comments from the public, and item D, which is response to public comments, after the presentations. I will stand for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agenda for Wednesday, April 11th, 2018, as suggested.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mayor Whitehead. I'm looking for a second. Second, Mayor. Second by Commissioner Heschler. Seeing none, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay, now we move on to presentations. Fun part of the day. The first one is a proclamation declaring Saturday, May 6, 2018, the first day of Fiesta, as Miss Fiesta 2018 Eleanor, also known as Ella, Cano, did I pronounce that right? Cano? Linson Day. Before I read the proclamation, I would just like to make a couple personal observations. Yes.
Let me interrupt. She's not here yet.
I can stretch this thing out for an hour if you want. I've been known to talk long and hopefully intelligently, but at least long.
Do you want to do another item first?
Okay. Yes, okay, so with everyone's permission, good advice, and thank you. We're going to move directly on to number 2. Is Lieutenant Baker here? Is she doing a presentation? Okay, some off-track racing. All right, so let's go to number 3, presentation. Off-road desert racing at the old motocross track. I believe it's Drew Garcia or Aaron who's going to do our presentation. First, I would just like to personally thank Manager Fuentes and Mark Left, our airport manager, for bringing this exciting new event to Truth or Consequences. Gentlemen, you honor us by your presence, so thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. My name is Carlos Trujillo. I'm CEO of Instrumental LLC. I am newly president of Outlaw Desert Racing. We shortened it to ODR, and now we're taking it to the next level. I've had a lot of success recently with the mainstream off-road level. We, on Saturday, took 8th place in the World Championship at the UTV World Championship. We've had a lot of success over the last few years on the trophy truck level. And now we're starting to get a grassroots following from everyone out of New Mexico. They're coming from the cinematography groups, coming from the Jeep clubs, all the first responders, anybody that is really active and proactive in New Mexico right now that really wants to be a part of OHV legislation changing into the future and making it for what our untapped potential can truly be. We have some of the best landscape, some of the best dirt. I mean, it's kind of funny to say, but we have some of the best there is. We can really go from high elevation to, you know, wide open desert. We can have a little bit of everything for everyone, and people from all over the world, they envy the dirt that we have, and so I see that we can use that, and we can see a huge future in that. Recently, Drew Garcia, he was the former president. He passed it over to me in December. He has over 20 years of experience. We've put on successful shows from dating back to 2008 to 2012. He has a ton of experience, wound up knowing a lot of the people, of the core people that were from before there was the internet, before there was so much connection with everyone, and we wound up being able to utilize that grassroots from my success on the mainstream with his grassroots knowledge and level over here as well. And so I'm gonna let Drew talk just for a quick second. He has a lot of great things to say. I don't want to talk for him.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity this morning. I am an ambassador for the New Mexico Off-Road as far as Montesa Park, and I apologize, I'm a little nervous this morning, too much coffee. But I am an ambassador for the open space in Albuquerque. We put on some successful races there at Montesa OHV Park. We also had the national event, Cinco de Baja, with Ultra 4. That's the King of Hammers. We had the qualifier there in Rio Rancho, which was a success, brought in thousands of dollars in revenue. We had over 200 race teams. Each team brings in about 10 people just on each team. And then they have semi-trucks, they have 50-foot trailers, 30-foot trailers. And then some of the race equipment, low budget, can start with a dirt bike racing from UTV, ATV, pilots, and then that moves up into dune buggies, custom built into each specified class of off-road trucks.
If you guys want to get a sample of it, we have a YouTube clip. We have a video now that from the 2012 one.
Yeah.
That was the top one.
The top one?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, and this is the little highlights from our last race. Or this was two before, I'm sorry.
Let me get some volume here.
King of the Hammer Southwest Qualifier was looking for some property, some land that, they can throw at the best racers in the world. We said, man, let's have a race down here. And I was like, well, we got the Cinco de Baja 150. We'll bump it up 50 miles. We'll do the Cinco de Baja 200, and here we are. And we got a great turnout today, it looks like. So far, I'm really impressed. We got a really big turnout. Got around 50 Ultra 4 entries right now. It's kind of cool stepping into other associations and playing with different people, and it's like a venture, So I think everything's going to be really fun, and we're going to find the people that we want to play with.
I have a lot of race footage.
So this opportunity, we have some of the best desert racers in the world. They race King of the Hammers. They race Dakar in Paris, in Africa. Some of those racers are here in New Mexico. We have Rigsby Racing. He travels all over the world, and he does expeditions and then world racing. And especially we do the Baja 1000, San Felipe 250. So a lot of these racers, they come from Texas, Arizona, California, and then Mexico. And we have a lot of Mexican racers there in the El Paso, Juarez area, wealthy businessmen that race these cars. We just came from the Spring Break 175, and Cesar Fuentes, he owns Gas Oil down there in Juarez, and a lot of those racers, the big teams, they come up to El Paso to race, and so they would like to come here too. So what we're trying to have this opportunity is have an off-road complex here where we can make this a traditional race. We would love to bring Cinco de Baja here as the home for our national events. with Ultra 4. And Rich Klein, who owns We Rock in the Dirt Riot series, he wants to race here too. They're also the East Coast side. Ultra 4 Racing, they do the West Coast. We Rock Dirt Riot does the East Coast, and they want to come here also to race on the same track that we're racing on, which brings thousands of people from all over the nation. So this revenue would generate it would generate money for everybody, for all the gas stations, the food, the restaurants, the motels, the hotels. I think it'd be a big boom here. We're seeing millions of dollars go into Parker, Arizona, Lake Havasu. They've legalized OHV use on the street there. That income, I mean, it's just quadrupled since they've allowed that street legal vehicles on there. Of course, they have to abide by street legal rules, but they're making millions of dollars. We just came to Parker 425. We raced there in February, and it was amazing. Everywhere was packed. We were talking to the small restaurants, cafes, and they haven't seen that in years.
They sold out of ice.
So we just wanted to let you know, we want to make this our home. We've had a lot of races here. We've been successful. We've never had any deaths at our events. We have full security. We have full safety in place. We work with fire and safety. We have ambulances and paramedics on standby. We have obviously our insurance and land permits, everything that's required by you and the state and whoever that township property. We put everybody on there. We make sure we have millions of dollars of coverage on aggregate for livestock, fencing, everything. And if we have to reseed, if we have to plow, we have excellence in as far as volunteers cleaning up after us. We try to work with city or county, try to get a dumpster out there. We have full cleanups. We work with local off-road clubs. We always have volunteers when these off-road races happen. The off-road community, they always come out, so they help us, and we're always trying to do less environmental impact. We race on the roads that are already graded or that are already there. So we try to push the tread lightly aspect when you're off the road. And so I think our events have been very controlled. We used to work with Mr. Chester. He was with the OHV Game and Fish, but he's retired at this time. He works for Polaris. He worked with us hand in hand at all our events. So we'd be more than happy to have any of those Game and Fish officers talk to you at a later date to, ask them questions about how our races were perceived and how they were handled, and afterwards, after everything was done. So again, thank you for the opportunity. We're trying to have a race here on Memorial Weekend. It would be on the west side of the freeway by the gun range area and the old racetrack. We've talked to the local landowners. That's Randy.
Randy Ashcroft and Bob Ingram.
Bob Ingram.
We had talked to them. We have all the permits that we need for them. They want to make sure that the land is permitted right. We're gonna go through all the zoning. We have everything perfect. Basically, everything that the whole surrounding community, we had a lot of great feedback from first responders. We're doing it as a tribute to the veterans. It's the Veterans Memorial 150. We want to make it a very patriotic race, so that way we're bringing in racers to do it as a commemorative race, to change the whole landscape of the weekend of Elephant View, of this whole, it not being a day off, of it being, a tribute race to the ultimate sacrifice for that weekend of what we really have to do for it, And we have a very strong community of first responders, military, people that race with us that are really proud of who they are and proud of where they come from. And we have more support for the local community when it comes from just volunteer effort. People will come out of the woodwork just because it's what they want to do. They're asking us. They're calling us up and they're hounding us. They're like, what can we do to help and how can we be a part of this? And right now, it seems like the community is hungry for something that we could really make an impact with. We could have something that the kids could be proud of. Cinematography, we could have racing, we could have mechanics, we could have fabrication, metalwork, small business ownership, a lot of things that would be incorporating, for a lot of positive outlook for the potential of New Mexico that we see.
And also, like the local high school or the schools, we'd love to bring the race cars out, show the kids, the mechanics of that, that these trades are from welding, electrical, doing stuff like that. So we think it'd be a big benefit. It'd be a motivation. And,
Local advertising in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Anything we can do like that, for anything we can bring, the kids out, or any adults as well, any internships or scholarships that we can try to, be able to create, a good amount of hope that everyone can have somewhere to be, especially, you know, that gives them, for where we're at right now, and me getting, 8th place, we're right on the cusp of the technology of off-road racing and the worldwide exposure of that, and because of that, we're gonna be able to bring something that is something that's far away for a lot of children and for a lot of people, even just from New Mexico. You would never be able to see this kind of thing unless you knew about it or were able to go out and go and see it somewhere in California or Mexico or somewhere else. And for us to be proud of that, where we come from and where we are, we can bring our own self-sufficient economy here is what our biggest goal is, really and truly.
So we wanted to coordinate, we wanted to have multiple races a year here. We also wanted to bring in the UTV New Mexico State Championships. And then we would also be conjoining with other race organizations here. Once that land is there and it's set in place, we can bring in national events here, and that would be the goal. The biggest goal here is just more money coming into the Truth of Consequences.
And making this a very successful event. That's what our biggest goal is, this event to start, more than anything.
You know, I hear all the time when we talk about having a race down here from everybody is that this was the home of off-road racing back in the 60s when they had the Jeep rallies here. This was America. This is where it all started. Even when we go to the Mint 400, Baja 1000, people still say they know that this is the birthplace of off-road racing.
In 1965.
What an opportunity it would be to bring that back. And so once we have everything established, we'd love to bring those original races back and like kind of recreate them under the same names that they were called, the Jeep rallies and, you know, the Truth of Consequences 100, stuff like that. That would be great. So we live in Albuquerque, but we're down here all the time. I know Don Hearn. We know Ken Swan. Ken Swan couldn't be here today. Unfortunately, his father has cancer, so we're praying for him. But we have a lot of support from the off-road community. A lot of people that have UTVs, they really would love to see something happen here. And so we just really appreciate the opportunity. I think we have one more clip of our last race that we had in Berlin. We'd just like to show you a little bit of that, and we'll wrap it up.
Oh, I might have lost it. That's not it, right?
No, yeah.
So in this last race, we have the Land of Enchantment, Enchanted Aerials, all the drones. They do the drone racing. They also want to get involved with this park. They have drone racing here. They did it at the spaceport, but they did all the footage for us, and they will also be doing media coverage for us at all our future races.
This level of cinematography right here is comparable to the best of the best of Redwood with anyone out there in that West Coast.
The drones are a lot safer than helicopters at these events, and we just, I think it's a great opportunity. And we're just, you know, we're also giving them opportunity where they can do drone flying school, safety events, everything here, and use the same facility, the same track. Now this is on a private ranch, Mr. Sievers in Berlin, just west of where the main water tower and the Chrome Cafe, and there's a motel right there. You head west all the way out, and this is where we race out there.
And we were in ties with the city of Berlin and Fat Sats restaurant, the gas station restaurant right there. But that was mostly for you.
The other thing I wanted to say is that Memorial Weekend, you know, it is Memorial Weekend. We wanted to do the Veterans 150. We'd also have a military off-road show. So there's a lot of support with that, the military vehicles and showing off old Jeeps and, you know, Deuces, the 5 tons, the Elephant View 5 tons, they want to come out. Just a lot of cool stuff, so it'd be a good opportunity for families and fun. So, and then we have our Tech Contingency Night on Friday night, which We coordinate where we have to tech, inspect all the vehicles. They have to be done. They go through safety inspections before they can race, and we have to tag them off. We have to sign off everything, driving suits, helmets, neck braces, fire extinguishers, first aid kits. They have to have everything or they cannot race.
At that time, while we're doing that, it gives the fans and up close and personal. They can touch the vehicles, they can get inside of them, to meet all the drivers. It really is a family-friendly, really hands-on environment. You can't really do that in any other sport. NASCAR and a lot of the other racing out there, it's very, you have to have a wristband, it's in the pits, yeah, it's very far away. But this one, because of the way desert racing is formatted, it's the most family-friendly, hands-on form of this type of racing you can do in any form of racing.
So is there any questions?
Thank you for your presentation.
Okay.
Eighth in the world is pretty impressive, Carlos.
Thank you.
I know if people have eighth in the world.
Thank you very much.
So, are there any questions or comments from the commission? All right.
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you so much. And I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. You guys.
I was waiting for somebody else.
Okay, Commissioner Haslund.
Just a couple of questions. First of all, I'm very excited for the event. I'm very excited for you guys. I want to see the first event. I'm a little bit concerned about a couple of things. I'd like to have a couple of questions answered ahead of time.
Sure.
I have some environmental concerns.
Yes.
Obviously, it's pretty close to town. I don't know how much dust is generated. If the winds go the wrong way, are there any issues with that? Will you be watering the track?
We water the track down.
Water the track down in those affected areas that we think that it needs dust control. Yes, sir.
The day before and the day of the race.
Yeah.
Okay. Memorial Weekend. You know what's happening out at the lake Memorial Weekend.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We know what's happening in this community. Our resources may be spread very thin, depending on what the activity is at the lake, depending on what else is happening in the county, and now with the major event here close to our community. How are we prepared for that? Do you bring in additional staff or personnel? What is your recommendation in that?
We have our own emergency staff that they come from the movie industry, and that's how we all kind of connect together. And then also we have our own security as well. And then our people that block off the streets are certified tow truck drivers, and so that's the normal job is to block traffic.
Yeah, Duggar's Towing in Albuquerque, they're one of our sponsors, and they bring down 2 flatbed trucks for us, and they're on standby at all times. We usually don't need them for any race vehicles. It's always spectators or something. They want to park closer or something, and they get stuck, and so we have to help them out. So, and we always do that free of charge. Also, like you were saying, the medics, we use the movie paramedics in Albuquerque. Joe Barboa, he runs Superior Ambulance up there, and he also owns the movie ambulances. I forgot what it's called, but he's always at our races. So they're going to drive down here, have an ambulance on standby, and then we also coordinate with the local EMTs, ambulances, sheriff's department, police department. We will talk to everybody and make sure everything is coordinated. We also give the GPS coordinates for Life Flight in Albuquerque just in case we need a helicopter down here. So we go.
We can also coordinate with the state police too if we need to as well. Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
You know, when people think off-road racing, they think, oh, rowdy kids. You know, you will get some people like that, but this is all about safety. This is all about family. We don't tolerate no alcohol drinking at our races. If a team's caught drinking, they're disqualified.
And banned from our league.
So we take it very serious about safety. So also with the spectators. Now, we need to talk about, you know, vendors during that time. If there's beer garden, stuff like that, then that needs to be in a contained area. But as far as security, we always have our own staff. We have volunteers. We give them free shirts. We try to feed them all day, give them water, Gatorade, stuff like that. So it's worked out in the past. Again, we had Ultra 4. We had thousands of people come out, and we have them contained in one spectator area. So, and, you know, most entertainment for people is 3 hours. You're bored after that. So after, you know, certain times, people, they just come and go. So we get that alternation of families and crowds. So it seems to work out every time. Plus, this would be the first race. We don't know what to expect. We don't know if everybody's coming or, you know, we'll just get, you know, just the racers, friends, and families. Now, people are excited. They have been talking about this. We did try to do this race about 3 or 4 years ago. We were trying to work with a gentleman named, I believe, Greg Neal. He was supposed to have that Motorsportsplex. He made us do a lot of legwork for him. and then the door was shut on that.
But because of that, the buzz was created, and people have been hounding us about this race. So the turnout is there. People from all aspects of life, all the woodwork is coming out.
Yeah.
Everyone is coming out.
So, sorry, I don't want to waste too much of your time. If you got any other
One
questions?
follow-up question. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
And the question is that, post-event, will we have an opportunity to sit down with your organizers to see what went great, to see what didn't go so great, so that we can maybe massage the event for next time if we have to have it?
Absolutely.
And is that going to be scheduled, or how does that work?
Yes, sir, absolutely. We'll be here all week afterwards because of damage control, cleaning, reseeding, if any fences were damaged, regrading. Also, there's a local landowner next door. He has a house there. We're going to complimentary grade his road for free. We'll just try to help out and the community. So.
And for future, so we can scale as well too, because I would like to see this as successful as possible, and for us to be able to, have a joint ventures together. Sure.
Yeah, a lot of people know me. I've been racing for over 20 years, sir. I'm 44 years old now. I've been with the New Mexico Off-Road League. I own that. We did Outlaw Desert Racing. We did the New Mexico Off-Road Racing Association. I've been around since I was 18 years old. I took over when I was about 20. So we've been racing for years in Rio Rancho, Albuquerque, and Belen, but we're running out of property there now in Rio Rancho. Santa Ana, they bought all of King Ranch, so we're not able to race out there anymore. And the end of Southern, there's too many property owners involved, New Mexico Land Trust, PNM, so it's just a mess out there. So we want to find a new home. And we come down here to the lake all the time anyways, and we would like to make this our permanent home for Outlaw Desert Racing. Now, I want to be clear, Outlaw Desert Racing is just a theme and a name. Each race organization, Best in the Desert, SCORE, we coordinate with the Texas Racing Association, so that's THOS, Texas Off-Road Racing Association, TDRA. They're all themed bandits, outlaw, stagecoach, horses. So we snagged the Outlaw name. So it's just kind of a theme thing. So, but everybody's honest, or everybody's business owners, and we try to have the highest expectations and the highest levels of competition and safety. And we race Baja, we race Mint 400. Again, Carlos just raced the UTV Worlds, took 8th overall, very impressed out of 200 racers. So our name is out there. Mad Media, they do all the media for all the big organizations. Best in the Desert, their clothing line, they're doing our clothes for the event. I mean, everything's going to be top notch.
We have a very good reputation, that we want to uphold, and we want you guys to uphold as well, with you guys.
So, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, Commissioner Hessler, I thought those were very pointed and well-phrased questions and needed to be asked. Thank you for that. I would ask you, since this is a business meeting, and I know we get all enthusiastic, and I think the next item we want to applaud, but let's just keep it to a minimum. So, any other questions, I guess, on the presentation? No, we're going to move on. Okay. Pardon me, I'm playing dances with glasses here. The next item is number 1, presentation, proclamation declaring Saturday, May 6, 2018, which is the first day of Fiesta, as Miss Fiesta 2018 Eladar, known as Ella Cano Linson Day. And before I read the proclamation, and I think our reporters would love to take a picture with maybe the people who we're going to be honoring and some of the Rotary Club members that are present. I just want to give you a little bit of history. Real quick, Hot Springs, Women's Hot Springs Club ran Fiesta for many, many, many years. And like any other volunteer organization, you get tired. And we found out, and actually I was with Frances Lunar, I think, at a hospital meeting, if I'm not mistaken, and she had heard that the Hot Springs Women's Club was not going to do Fiesta again. And knowing Frances, I knew that was an unacceptable decision that she would not abide by. So I guess she went to Rotary, and it has been Rotary that has taken on this tradition and kept it alive. Now I believe it's 66 years, if I'm not mistaken. So I just wanted to thank, on a personal note, the members of the Rotary Club, and in specifically Ms. Frances Luna, who is a Rotarian and Vice Chair of the County Commission, Christy Weir, Isabel Garcia, and all those Rotary members who participated in the event, volunteered their time, and also the MCs, the judges, and anyone else who I did not miss. So with that said, it gives me great pleasure to read the following proclamation. Proclamation, City of Truth or Consequences. Whereas on March 31st, 2018, the Miss Fiesta pageant was held at the Civic Center in Truth or Consequences with 15 contestants, and whereas at the conclusion of the pageant, Eleanor Cano Linson was named Miss Fiesta, and whereas for over 66 years the pageant was run by the Hot Springs Women's Club, and last year was taken over by the Rotary Club of Truth or Consequences and has awarded many scholarships to contestants, and whereas this young woman will represent Truth or Consequences in Sierra County at many events and occasions throughout their reign, giving generously of her time to promote Truth or Consequences in Sierra County. And whereas Ms. Cano Linson has brought acknowledgement and acclaim to herself and her family with this achievement, and is a source of enormous pride to the City of Truth or Consequences, Sierra County, just as every other Miss Fiesta has done, and parenthetically I'd like to add, and probably her family and friends as well. Now therefore, I, Steve Green, Mayor of the City of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, do hereby declare the first day of Fiesta on Saturday, May 5th, 2018, as Miss Fiesta Ella Cano Linson Day in the City of Truth or Consequences, and encourage area citizens to applaud all of these young women contestants for their accomplishments and to enjoy another Fiesta weekend signed by myself and Renee Canton, City Clerk. Is Ellie in the room by any chance? Would you like to come forward? I would like to present this to you personally, and I would like to ask Frances Luna, the Rotary Club, and any other members of the participants of the pageant.
Would you go around?
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And I would like to ask my fellow commissioners and city manager, and I think Clerk Canton is a Rotarian, if I'm not mistaken, soon to be president of Rotary. Please join us up here. And we have a county manager. I didn't see him come in. Bruce Swingle, who I believe is the president, chairman or president of Rotary. Do we have any photographers in the room? Okay. Now we have applause.
It's an honor. Thank you everyone that has supported Rotary and has supported Miss Fiesta. It's something that's life-changing. It really encourages self-confidence in all the girls, and I really encourage everyone to encourage the girls to run. And thank you.
Okay, thank you, and congratulations, and we'll see you in the parade. The next item is number 2, presentation, Truth or Consequences, Animal Shelter. Our presenter is Lieutenant Erica Baker from the T.R.C. Police Department. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, Commissioners, City Manager. Today, we're going to kind of go over the animal shelter, the beginnings, and to where we've now progressed now to where our grand opening is soon upon us. I have the manager that will be managing the shelter, Sabrina Day, standing up here with me as well. Okay.
More like look for it.
So the animal shelter has been a long thought out process. I want to say probably 2012, 2013. And it initially started with Chief Priscilla Mullins. We are now at the point to where it's not just a dream anymore, it's actually reality. And we're going to be looking at opening on the 18th is our grand ribbon cutting for the animal shelter. The animal shelter originally started from a building that was already standing on the property at 1101 Cedar Street, Suite C. This was a metal building that they added on to and basically remodeled to make the animal shelter what it is today. We have progressed. I kind of got this after Chief Aliris retired, and so this has kind of been my project that I've been responsible for getting done and taking care of. Chief Apodaca has helped me quite a bit because I've never done anything like this before, so this is all kind of new to me. The animal shelter was finished around March 2018. It was completed. It is state-of-the-art. It has self-cleaning drain system, which means when they go to clean the kennels, we can put all the animal waste and feces into these drains, and it washes it all out and goes into a draining system below the animal shelter and out through the sewer. This is going to make it a lot easier for employees here at the animal shelter, just because having to clean and do all that by hand is going to be a lot for just a few employees to do. So these are progresses that have been added to the animal shelter that are not currently at the old one, that are state-of-the-art in the new one. We have, what you see on the screen, we had purchased items for the animal shelter that we would need. Of course, we have kennels. We have 8 intake kennels, 10 feline kennels, 2 quarantine kennels, and 8 puppy kennels. And then we also have 11 large kennels, which have the outside runs connected to them. This is going to give the dogs that are in these kennels room to run outside, room to be outside, stuff that they did not have at the old animal shelter. These are all new additions to this new one that is going to make it so much better for the animals. So the total cost for some of the stuff that we bought, we had like single door kennels, modular, double door kennels, a weigh scale for the animals in the intake room, so when they come in, they can be weighed, cleaned, given their vaccinations, and then put in an intake kennel so we can monitor them before we put them with the regular population of animals, so we don't have any sickness occurring. Each kennel has their own ventilation system as well. So the puppy kennel room, the cat kennel room, the quarantine room, and then the main room outside with the outside runs, they each have their own ventilation system, which is going to help with the smell. I mean, I don't know how many of you have been in actual animal shelters or even just, adoption centers. There's going to be some smell with the animals and stuff, so this is going to help us with that. The intake room was made especially for animal control who can bring in the running at large dogs. We're going to have a microchipping system where we'll actually be able to read any microchipped animals, and we're also going to be able to have do our own microchipping as well. We have a vaccine table that we purchased that we can hook up the leashes to, so she can safely vaccinate animals so that we're not running around. The puppy room is very neat. It's specifically just for puppies. We have toys and blankets and bowls for each kennel. We've also purchased this for the feline room as well. They have their own litter boxes for each one. We have toys for the cats. We have toys for the older dogs. This is all things that were not at the old animal shelter. We have a front lobby now for the public, which we furnished and is almost complete. We're still waiting on some last minute stuff, of course. That always comes up when you're trying to start from scratch. but we got that taken care of as well. I really want to stress to the community and to you as well that our number one priority is the animals and adoption. We really didn't have a whole lot of leeway when it was at the old animal shelter to promote adoption and to see if we could really push that. We're going to have Shelter Pro, which is a software system that links us with other animal shelters across the state. It gives us a database basically that keeps the animals' names, information, and we can also promote adoption through this website as well, which I think is really neat thing. We have linked up with Tractor Supply, who is currently has a donation box there for us that donates to the animal shelter, broken food bags, anything that anybody wants to donate. And I would like to give Tractor Supply and Bullocks a big thank you because they're giving us right now any broken bags, expired food, anything that we can get, they're donating all that to the animal shelter for us to help us out. Now the kennels I'm really excited about. I don't know if any of you have been in the old animal shelter that's connected with Dr. Dawkins. They're all inside. And the only outside ones are the intake kennels where we usually, or animal control brings running at large dogs. These kennels that we have that have the outside runs, the dogs can come in and out. They're not going to be restricted just to be inside. We're going to have employees that are going to be able to walk these dogs, give these dogs one-on-one time. That's including the felines. The pictures you've seen, those are the outside kennels. And then the one you see there, those are the intake with the bowl and the blankets. The one on the left is the puppy kennel, and we have a little toy in there already. We have it kind of set up. And then the one on the right is the feline kennel, and it has its bowls, its toys, and its litter box as well. And they'll have blankets, and it'll all be set up just like that, how you see. This is the lobby. It's not a whole lot right now. Like I said, we're still waiting on some of our items to still come in to help Ms. Day be prepared for the opening and actual operation of the animal shelter. So this is the Truth or Consequences animal shelter today. I'm sorry about the picture. The sun was kind of in the way. But you can see there's quite a difference with just the building now that was there prior and the building now. It's very nice. I personally helped pick the colors for the inside, so it's not gray inside. We have blue and brown and happy, positive colors. I just want to stress that this animal shelter is going to be better than what we had previously. And I'm not speaking bad of Dr. Dawkins because she has done us a great service by letting us partner with her to help care for the animals now. This animal shelter is just kind of an improvement to what we had. And I'm excited. I know Ms. Day is very excited to get this animal shelter opening and running. We're really excited about the grand opening. She and I have put a lot of hard work into this, and we're really excited to show the community what we have built and what we have to offer the animals. I stand for any questions.
So, thank you. Excellent presentation. Commissioners?
Yeah. Lieutenant Baker, Ms. Day, you got to be really commended for this. And I know that we're running up against the deadline date for being open, and being one person who has been banned from the animal shelter because every time I went to say hello, I came back with something. I really appreciate the fact that you're concentrating on adoption, which is really great. And I'm looking forward to your opening and a tour.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission?
Great job.
Lieutenant, I'm sorry, did you?
I said great job. Thank you.
Agreed. Lieutenant Baker, is there a date set for the ribbon cutting yet? Are you?
Yes, the ribbon cutting will be 18th at 10 a.m. at the animal shelter, 1101 Cedar Street, Suite C.
April 18th, 10 a.m.
Yes, sir.
Obviously open to the public.
Yes, sir.
Everyone's invited.
Yes, I'm still in the process of delivering those invitations to the businesses and to our dignitaries, so yes, sir.
Well, also, thank you for taking on this project with such passion and zeal.
Thank you.
And I wish Ms. Day all the success in the world. Toys, warm blankets, food. do you accept adult reservations? I'm ready to book in this hotel.
I also forgot to mention there is going to be, we have purchased dog bags, we just don't have them yet.
Commissioner has to want to know if I'm in the doghouse with my wife, and that's why I'm applying. But wonderful, excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you for your
appreciate
time.
it. Thank you. Okay. The next item is number 4, presentation, I-25 Business Loop Project. Our presenters are Aaron Shavara. I apologize, I probably pronounced your name New York City style, and I apologize. NMDOT District 2, and Andres Linen, NMDOT South Design Region, PDE NMDOT. Before I ask these gentlemen to come up and do their presentation, I want to stress to the public that during public comment, these gentlemen are not here to answer questions at this particular time. But I have been authorized by Manager Fuentes and these gentlemen from NMDOT to let you know that there will be another public workshop open to the public and encourage that you attend, will be held here in Truth or Consequences with a date to be determined, and we will certainly ask NMDOT to give us enough lead time so we can get the words out to the newspapers, and they might want to do an article or something about the workshop. So with that said, gentlemen, the microphone is yours.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Aaron Chavarria. I work for New Mexico Department of Transportation. It's actually District 1, not District 2. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for letting us come up in front of you, give you a relatively short presentation of what we're doing. Rest assured that the I-25 business loop, as you see it today, is going to continue to function the same way. The vehicles you see today are regardless of what project of the project that we're going to move forward with, are still going to be able to use the same loop with no problem. Our study was, the biggest proponent to our study was safety. It was brought forward by public concerns, by the city of Truth or Consequences. All alternatives have been vetted, they've been engineered, and that's how we came to this preferred alternative. Andres Linen is going to go through the presentation, and he'll give you guys a little more information on it. So with this, I'll hand it over to Andres. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Andres Linen. I'm a project development engineer for the Department of Transportation. Who does not know how to change this word?
And I can't help you at all.
There we go. Thank you. No, I'll figure it out finally. Yes. We're here to, first of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the invitation for us to come out here today, and I definitely want to thank the municipal staff, Juan Fuentes, city manager, and all his support group. Since 2014, when the community brought up the concern to the DOT, and the DOT recognized there's truly an issue here, and we utilized the tools available to us, what is a study. There was close coordination, close communication between the municipality and the state personnel. I personally came on a little bit later to this project, but I want to give you just a quick rundown, and I want to give you kind of the progress where we are today. And it's no problem, sir. It happens to the best.
Okay.
And the main reason why we're here today is we really want to stress how we from the DOT want to continue this relationship and actually encourage the city to become even more active in the conceptual design and giving you guys the opportunity to represent the spirit, the ideas, the values of your community, and incorporate these ideas and the values into this design that we're proposing in form of gateway feature landscaping. It's, you guys live here, it's your community. And it shouldn't be, I believe, as a project manager, I believe it shouldn't be mandated from the state. It should allow the community to have input. So I will give you just a little rundown so everybody is reminded what we're doing and where we're at today. And then we can go from there, and any question you have towards me, I'm more than happy to answer them. Project schedule, as I say, we started this in 2014. There is a process, phase 1, A, B, C, D. That leads to a conceptual roadway design. We are at the point right now where we're close to present that design to the community, to the city itself. That public meeting, Mayor, that you were mentioning, it will follow after the May submittal. From there, it goes to a review. 60% after the concept is established, we go in and we ensure that from a drainage, from a grading process, everything engineered fits into the existing landscape. And then from there, when we hit end of the year, November, we should be able to tie the entire project together and have the final project ready for construction. Production for this project is currently set for May 19, so about a year from today. That means we have design plans ready. We should have all the certifications that's necessary to secure funding. Our projects are 85% federal funds, 15% state funds. All this should be verified and obligated at that point, and then it depends on construction funds available when construction actually can start. For this project, I was selected as the project development engineer, what is state term for project manager. Aaron, he is from the owner side, from District 1. He's my counterpart on the engineering. To complete the study as well as the design, we went through a bid process. We had a request for proposal. The winning company was WH Pacific out of Albuquerque, and WH Pacific is working together with an environmental consultant, SWCA, as well as a traffic design team from Lee Engineering. So this is, you have it's not just the NMDOT doing the study and design. In this case, we reached out to the private sector, and the private sector is supporting us in coming up with the best engineering solution for your problem. Just a reminder for everybody, the project limits that we are talking about here, beginning of the project would be the intersection of Date Street and Smith Avenue, and we are evaluating and designing Date Street all the way to the intersection with Date Street, New Mexico. 181, yes.
Just a real quick correction on this one. Our study went from 9th all the way to the interstate. The project we're talking about presenting to you guys is specifically between Smith and Asheville.
Thank you. Everybody knows State Street currently is a 4-lane urban major arterial. The speed is posed at 40 miles an hour. Our study actually proved your average speed is 53 miles per hour on the street, what is one of the big concerns. Concerns was brought up by you, by the community. We received letters, we received photographs, phone calls. All this was taken into account. This is how this whole project started. So I really want to point it out. This is a community-initiated project. What was the concern highest? Obviously, the congestion and accidents at the intersection with New School Road. There occurrence of accidents along the street and between the intersections to the lake to New School Road, and there were complaints even about the configuration of the intersection to the lake. So this was by letter, by email, by phone call. These were the things that's coming in that actually prompt the District 1 to actually come up with the money to support this study. The corridor study process, this is an established process for every major project within New Mexico. So there's a guideline locations of procedure, what is actually, it's 4 phases, or 4 tasks within one phase. Phase 1A, what was the existing condition, started 2014. We had a public meeting and identified the concerns were legit. Everything showed. So, you know, we identified the purpose of need, what needs to get done to fix the problems, and we had a general idea back in the day what could be done. Again, we recognized this needs to be done rather sooner than later. Phase B was implemented, the contract with the consultant was extended, and we just completed Phase 1B, the evaluation of alternatives, last year, and we came back to the community and we held a public meeting here at the high school, and we showed you different alternative possible, and we explained based on our engineering evaluation why we lean towards one or the other. At that point, we allowed public input. We received feedback at the meeting. We saw response. It was mentioned in the newspaper. So the public was involved and gave us feedback. Based on that, we reviewed our alternatives. We compared preferences to the actual need. What was this? The safety, and we moved forward with a preferred alternative. What we're going to show here. It kind of is the same what I just said. The issues in the corridor is the accident data showed high occurrence of accidents. The speeding issues are definitely not helping us. People just going too fast. There are actually geometry deficiencies in the roadway between the intersection 181 to New School Road. And then we also look, obviously, if we do any improvements, we have to look at the drainage, because if we change the roadway, it always impacts the drainage pattern, and we're really concerned that that runoff water could impact any property outside our right-of-way. The purpose and need that was identified and brought back to the community, number one, is to improve the safety throughout the corridor. And we had to come up with a design that will ensure it will reduce traveling speed 100% of the time. Now, we needed to improve sight distance. Currently, you have business entrances, and really with the configuration of Date Street, it doesn't allow the travelers to really see oncoming traffic. So maybe given a false impression, they can pull out at this time, and we see this actually T-bone crashes where it could be very severe. The pedestrian accessibility is not, and especially the safety is not given today. I was not there, but I was told during our first phase, teachers from the high school would actually try to step into a 4-lane roadway, slow down traffic so students could cross over Date Street to do a field trip down Smith Avenue. I mean, that's kind of, I have never seen anything like that before, but it's supposedly happened in the past. As I said, the intersection geometry deficiencies were identified, you know, and actually, sadly today, we look from an operation standpoint at roadways, you know, the capacity of the traffic, it's a 4-lane road, it can handle the traffic you have today. The next thing we looked at is what is the SAM, the SAMM is our State Access Management Manual. So there are regulations in place for design guidelines that should be followed by any kind of intersection design. You know, we looked into how does the current existing condition fit that. There were deficiencies, and like I said before, it's always important to look at the drainage. You know, everybody tells me it never rains in New Mexico, but when it does, it rains a lot. Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. Just real quick, some of these references and manuals that Andres is referring to, they're all FHWA approved. So when we follow these, it assists and helps us, more than likely guarantees federal funding for our projects. Like Andres said, we receive 85% federal funding, and without that, we wouldn't be able to really have any type of construction projects in our district, so.
I just want to show you pretty quick our existing condition. This is how the intersection, there's an offset T intersection between New School Road and Smith Avenue. Right here, this line, if you can see it, this is NMDOT right-of-way limits. So currently, the NMDOT accommodates a lot of your businesses along Date Street by allowing them to be within state property. No, the same line is up here. No, so actually the state, we have a lot of land through your community where we can actually, what allows us to actually provide a design that's sensitive to everybody. At the Phase 1A meeting back in 2015, one of the conceptual proposals was to maybe take Smith Avenue and reroute it. And this is the Moose Lodge, was their RV parking lot, and this is the Lodge Royal that goes parallel to Date Street. Right here, sorry. So, you know, and that was identified as a conceptual proposal for a solution for the occurrence of the accidents at New School Road and Date Street. This project, like I mentioned before, that's why I showed the right-of-way line, is not within the state property. You know, it would be a local option. In this case, I mean, if this is something the community wants to proceed with, and making this a full intersection, a four-legged intersection would actually warrant a traffic signal. You know, that was proposed during our last public meeting, but the biggest problem you're going to see there, it's a high cost impact to the local entity, and you're going to have a major impact to your Moose Lodge, as well installing the signal will have the direct impact on the properties related or adjacent to New School Road. So we went through the process and evaluated an offset signalized intersection. The biggest problem we run into, our biggest challenge, the traffic count does not warrant a traffic signal. So for us to go back and ask for federal funding for that type of project, the feds trying to show us the design that is necessary, and without the forced lag, without the relocation of Smith Street, this is not the case. The other thing, like I said, even a single, the T intersection signalized will directly impact the businesses adjacent to New School Road. Like I said, these manuals, they are approved by FHWA. These are our guidelines, our rules that we have to follow when we decide how to design, and they are our guidelines for decision making. So the solution came out. What can we do? This is the solution we proposed to you guys in our last public meeting, and it still fits all the requirements. What it does, it reduces traffic along Date Street, not just at a single point. Reconfiguration into a roundabout will reduce speed all the way from the intersection of 181 through New School Road, through Smith Avenue, and release back in the current configuration of the roadway. Based on our engineering evaluation, and the study was made available, and at a later point, we're more than happy to come back and go through it again. This is the most sensitive and safest, and I really come here, back to the purpose and need of the project. Safest first, then how sensitive fits it into the community. This is also the only solution that will allow business access, especially to this property right here on the corner. Currently, as I said, we are getting close to a 30% design. So what you see here is the actually, based on survey and true engineering data, a layout that we are evaluating for our preliminary, the conceptual design. No, it's the wrong button. So as you can see with the configuration, we will be able to provide a twiddle, two-way left turn lane that allows access from New School Road to the gas station as well as the bank, while a traffic signal, the design requirement for a traffic signal would close with an actual concrete curb and median. That twiddle would not be there. We would have to provide, and I actually have a layout for that. Let me see. This is all from the current design. Sorry about it. I will go back to that to give you guys a better understanding. Did I jump over it? Oh, actually it does. It's this one. Sorry it's so small. I expected a bigger screen. I apologize. So what I was talking about, a signalized intersection, we have a two left turn lane, a double left turn lane right here on the School Road that requires by design guidelines to run a raised concrete curb to separate the two-way traffic. So that would eliminate pretty much everybody just coming into New School Road and turning into this driveway. The only way you could do it is go in, have a U-turn, and come back. On the other hand, this existing driveway with a signal would have to be over 1,300 feet.
325 feet
With-
for a partial access, which is a right in, right out. And if you
Exactly.
wanted a full access, it has to be 1,320 feet.
So that would move this driveway all the way back here. So a signal really does not, by design standard guidelines, to install a traffic signal safely and acquire funding for a traffic signal, it will not work without keeping business access to this property today. We currently, this was a proposal where we closed actually access to the strip mall out of that second roundabout. We met with the community. We were informed that you really would like to see that stay open to allow for additional, there was additional interest in maybe development or new customers within the strip mall. So like I said, we appreciate all the input and work that we're doing with the community, and we're trying to incorporate that concept. We also, we met with the business owners separately. I know Citizen Bank, they just had new investment into an ATM and everything, so we made sure new investments will not be impacted or destroyed by this process, especially outside our right-of-way. The lower speed will actually improve the access to the additional businesses along Date Street. Site distances change, the road grade will change a little bit, so there are a lot of improvements that we've seen already in the conceptual design that this design will bring with it. We try and be coordinated with Mr. Rendell Ashbach on his property, and he brought up, we had a meeting separately with him, and he was trying to explain to us how he's bringing in his support trucks. So we're looking in the concept of providing a path through where he still, as I said, this is the only option that allows him access coming in here into his gas station. Otherwise, there would be full roundabout coming around, a full U-turn. But any of his supply trucks probably could not, no, they cannot make that turn. But on the other hand, we understand with closing this driveway, what is necessary for this woman, we try to create a conceptual outlet for him into the adjacent parking lot. So we understand the concerns, and we are addressing them in these designs, and hopefully when we come to our next public meeting, this is going to be a little bit more established. But I just want to point out that we are listening. We are listening to the concern brought to us. Yeah, and then on here one, like before, state property, we just want to point out, so all this parking and everything currently utilized by a local business is actually in state land. The second part of the project to make it a whole corridor improvement is the intersection with New Mexico 181. Again, we have our existing condition. Here we're showing again the property lines for the state right-of-way. Actually, it's up here. This is one of the deficiencies that we brought out, coming out of the turn right there. The sight line of the drivers is insufficient, especially at the speeds. Currently, posted 40, with up to 53 on average. That's the biggest thing about. I know people are concerned about roundabouts. Here again we looked at a signalized intersection. What in this case, based on traffic counts and the actual traffic, would be warranted. However, it is truly not helping with the speed. It controls speeding only 50% of the time and only in one spot. A signal does not really calm down a corridor. Actually, it could have a negative impact by drivers trying to beat this signal. Oh, I still can make the yellow. So
one of the biggest concerns we got at this intersection was people trying to access Sonic. And they currently do a U-turn. At one of our local RPTO meetings, law enforcement was there, and they brought that to attention, and they asked, is there something we can do? There's a lot of U-turns going on just right in front of the Sonic. So that was also a big consideration into our preferred alternative.
This is the preferred alternative that we came up with. As I said, the configuration of these roundabouts allow free flow of traffic at a reduced speed. And we can go through, I don't want to go into too much of the technical data, but it's available and I'm more happy to share it with everybody interested. I think I have a couple tables just in a summary that we're going to go through. We really like this idea because it definitely takes away all the geometric deficiencies, the sight distance, everything. These roundabouts are designed for posted speed of 30 miles an hour, but the curvature, the average speed is going to be between 17 to 23 miles an hour. The whole concept of the roundabout and the safety of roundabouts is based on reduced speeds and taking away conflict points. Right here, we are at the conceptual design again, based on survey data. One of the biggest advantages of this, we can actually construct this solution with minimum impact. We can keep traffic flowing without having to have large delays due to construction. Here again, it just shows the improvement. This is the only solution that actually impacts that sight distance issue that we identified. Currently ongoing, like I said, our contract study is at phase 1, A, B, C, D. A and B are completed. We are currently doing C, what is the environmental evaluation. So when we come back after the 30% design, we have a better idea. Again, we're asking for the public input. This will be evaluated, the social economic impact of these, is the hardship through these businesses based on the proposed design. This will be evaluated, this will be studied. There will be a full evaluation of it. It's not just a guess. And obviously, we are always concerned about the environment, making sure, especially in our case, the drainage. Would there be anything that we're trying to improve one thing, but do we destroy something on the other end? And then, like I said, the need and purpose of the project is safety. So we want to make crystal clear that what's necessary will be done with this project. This is not something that the DOT, again, the NEPA decision-making process is an FHWA approved process. So we're following federal guidelines on this one as well. Just a couple of data. Here we just compare three alternatives. No build is what you see today, existing condition. This is the evaluation of a signal. and that would be our preferred, the offset roundabout. So the way we looked at it, we do our capacity studies, we project traffic, what's going to be in this case 2014. And here, all the turn movements will be evaluated at different times of the day. And as you can see, like in 2014, a C is still acceptable, and F is you failed. Your intersection will be completely congested, and you can see it here actually on the delay time, and that's during the midday, your rush hour, and that's even in the evening, you're not really, so something needs to get done. This intersection cannot not exist for the next 22 years, or, you will see it will fail in type of capacity. The signal itself, while it improves it, but a C is this really the best? You want to spend all that money for an average, So that's really not something that when we look for the best possible solution for a problem, And then as you can see, the roundabout concept, the free flow, low speed environment for this specific scenario, a roundabout really doesn't work in every location, but it works here. Always we understand, a day in TRC is one day, 4th of July in TRC is a completely different scenario. It's like you moved into a large city. So we not only looked at our standard evaluation, we definitely took into account 4th of July, and as you can see, as before, no build, it's failing miserably. There's really no improvement. Actually, the signal before was a CA, it dropped the letter grade, and it's like in school. A is the best, F, you failed, while the roundabout, really gives you still the best engineering solution for this scenario. We did the same demand for a new school route and Smith, and here if you looked, I brought out just the worst case scenario, and it just comes down to the same idea. You have the no build, you have the intersection, and we have the double roundabout. And if we just want to concentrate, well, where do we have improvements? We can actually see, I think it's on the two different scenarios that, again, the roundabout will provide an as good or better solution than any of the other scenarios. Again, safety was the main issue. I mentioned it multiple times. We have speeds that are exceeding speed limits. We identified 31 crashes between 2011 and 2013 as part 1A of the study. 11 of these were at the new school road. And back to my beginning opening, that's why you guys called us and said we need to fix this. Why a roundabout? Why does a roundabout work better in this scenario? One of the biggest point is point of conflicts. A standard intersection has 9 points of conflicts, with 3 of them as dangerous conflicts because they're crossing paths, while a roundabout is minimized to 6 and has 0 crossing conflict points. We went through this, during the study, we went through the process and we identified using national database as well as state data to compare this effectiveness between a traditional intersection versus a roundabout. In these two scenarios, it showed that there's a reduction of 35% changing a traditional intersection to a roundabout. Severe crashes, as it says, since you don't have any crossing conflicts within the roundabout, it's truly the type of crash you see within this configuration is a side swap at low speed. So we're talking about fender bender, maybe a bumper scratch, but we don't have these T-bone crashes where people die, So as I hear just the type of crashes that occur, As I said, there is a truth, since this was brought up as a safety project, this is the solution that really reflects the problem, or addresses the problem. You know, this is a good example. It's a roundabout we constructed in District 1 of New Mexico 404 out by Chaparral. We saw this was just a standard T intersection. We had 32 crashes, so very similar to what you saw on the corner section between 2010 and 2013. Since in 1 year, we had 5 crashes that we could record. And these, like I said, were minor crashes. People drove away from it. There was no tow truck needed. We'll give it a second to load. Like I said, like for me, one of the stories that I heard when I went through the project was the teacher stepping into a 4-lane traffic, praying and just hoping for the best. The new school, Smith Avenue, was the type of travel, the type of pedestrian with the students that we have there. I mean, that's the safety point that drove this design home. Identifying the crossing opportunities for pedestrians and the roundabout converts to the conventional intersection is just phenomenal. The benefits speak for themselves, you know, because even with a traffic signal and having a right turn, we see definitely, especially if people are in a hurry and not willing to look all the way over the shoulder, while a signal allows me, there's a right turn on a green signal. These conflict points are truly the most severe and most of the time deadly. And this is not that, it's just when we view anything, you know, I can see the commission very well, but I can see Aaron barely out of the corner of my eye. You know, so while the roundabout, first of all, reduces the length of crossing to only one direction of traffic, it also creates a scenario where the pedestrian and the driver actually have eye contact. So it's not, there's a car maybe behind me that's going to turn right and I'm not aware of it. You know, I'm actually turning the other way, and out of my visual point, I have an idea a car is coming, while the car truly sees the pedestrian in front of them. What do you got here now? This was part of the decision matrix that lead to our preferred alternative, and I mean, it just came down, you know, a signal does not reduce the speed within your corridor, and that's what needed the most currently. It does not correct the sight distance that is currently existing. So it did not meet the need and purpose of this project. You know, and I didn't even go on, it has the highest business impact, negative business impact. You know, and the same is truly has to be said about the New Mexico 181 intersection. You know, so all I'm pointing out, we're not truly, it's not our preference. The data, the analysis, the engineering process has led us this direction. You know, so now let me go back because I'm one too far. Because if you remember, you invited me here to talk about opportunities and landscaping and actually concept for the community that gets you as a community more involved in this design. We are currently working with WHP, and we established layout. Let me go back. Actually, I should start with the New Mexico 101, the layout that we're proposing of the offset roundabout will allow you, and it's kind of, we had already a meeting with the municipal staff, coming in from the interstate, coming in from the lake, pretty much the center of this structure, what is 180-foot diameter. We're going to take about 10% from the outskirts, 10-15%, to where you cannot build anything higher than 30 inches to allow the free view. The center, it's up to the sky. There's barely any limitation from a traffic safety standpoint that will not allow the community to come up with a gateway feature that represents your community rather than having just a T intersection with a signal. So these concepts, or these design concepts, really allow the community to become active, become involved in the design, and represent your values. What we're proposing from the state, and this is a little bit, it's not the standard process. The DOT, by state guidelines, we are very limited what we can invest into landscaping, because landscaping is, from a taxpayer standpoint, for me to build landscaping, a gateway feature for TOC, doesn't really, if I have to justify this for somebody in Las Cruces or for somebody in Albuquerque, it becomes questionable. So we are limited to 1% of our construction cost for roadway improvements to invest into landscaping. If we do it ourselves, I hate to say it, but it's going to be very simple. It's maybe going to be stained concrete and, I don't know, maybe gravel. Because if you have to maintain it, we're going to make it the most least maintenance intense, maintenance-free design. That is, and for me as a state engineer, as a state development project owner, this is my task. For the DOT to make it as simple as I can, least impact onto maintenance. I don't personally like that. We're coming out here, and I try to emphasize this, so we want this to be fantastic. We want this to be a representation of TRC. So I came up with a proposal that and I hope you guys already had an internal discussion in this a little bit, if the city is willing to partner up with us at this point in the conceptual stage and is willing to provide a conceptual 30% landscape design, I will grab the money that's there available to me for landscaping and pay for the next 70% to bring this through to something that represents you as a community. So that's truly why we were invited here today, to answer any questions you may have to that proposal that we asking for a commitment, to get the community vested into that landscape design, and then that we come up to, it's a proposal. There's you're not required to do anything, but I just feel like this has an opportunity, to build an infrastructure, to build within your community that allows you to be involved and be proud of. Thank you. That's my presentation, and it went a little bit a different direction, but I just wanted to remind everybody where we at and what the situation is and why these roundabout designs were selected.
So the other option on the landscaping, you can always come back after we're done and do your own landscaping as well. So Andres just threw out an option for you guys. I mean, it's there. We have 1% to work with. It's better than nothing. I know it's a small amount, but it helps. Everything helps.
So thank you for your presentation. I've got a lot of questions, but because the hour is running late and there is a public workshop, I am going to ask you those questions at the public workshop. I just have one question I'll open up to my fellow commissioners. 1% of the total cost of the project. Construction cost. Can you give us a ballpark figure so we can do the math of what we're talking about dollar-wise? And what is the total construction cost of the project?
At this point, with a preliminary, so we're looking around $50,000 that the state can allocate towards the landscape.
Okay.
And like we said, we would be more than happy to, whatever, if you guys are willing to do the 30%, and that's whatever landscape architect or company you're going to work with. The only thing we have to ask for is that conceptual design, if you wanted to incorporate it in our project, has to be submitted, in the May, June timeframe, so it's gonna be, I apologize, it's that short of a timeframe, but as I said, this is kind of a different concept. I just felt like if I don't do it, if I don't offer it to you, I lose an opportunity that could be really beneficial to the community.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, concerns?
Just a really quick one. So when you're tearing this road up to put the roundabouts in, is that an opportunity for us to tie into our water lines so that we could get water into those center sections? So just in case we wanted to plant something that takes more than just cactus, we could do that, so we're not doing it after the fact, we're doing it during the construction project.
Yes, that's a good point. Typically, that's part of the 1% cost is we would build the infrastructure, bring in water lines or casings under the roadway, so you don't have to go and tear it up later.
Okay, yeah, because I believe our water lines are underneath your road there, so that would be the perfect time to do that.
And then to add to that, in the city, if you guys have any capital improvements to your utilities while we're there, then you can always add that cost to the project.
Brought a smile.
Just made my job harder.
You know, that cost, we wouldn't participate in that cost at all, except for the construction management.
Thank you.
Aaron has just lost 2 points with manager fund test. Just lost 2 points. Let me tell you right now.
And you gave 3 with me.
So, any other concerns or questions from the commission? Commissioner
One
Haslett?
short comment.
Yes, sir.
And thank you guys for that presentation. I would just encourage you before the town meeting, one more time, to reach out to those businesses that are going to be impacted by these roundabouts and see, so that you understand exactly the situation and what they're going through and what's going to change in their lives, so that perhaps we can resolve some of these issues before we have that public meeting. You know, it might ease the tensions in a public meeting to some degree.
I'll do that.
Right, thank you.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Great
Okay,
presentation.
thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your time and your kind offer. Thank you. The next item is comments from the public. If you want to have a comment, please come forward, state your name, your address. Remember, it's the 3-minute rule applies, and any information that you want to be made part of the official business meeting of this commission, please put in the black box next to the microphone. Sir, you're up.
Mayor Green, Council, I'm on behalf of a number.
Can you state your name, please?
Oh, thank you. Daniel Holm. I live at 1008 Coper Street. I have 2 issues that I'd like to bring forward, both based on the presentations made today. The first one having to do with the off-road competition. I think that will be exciting for the city. It'll bring in some revenue. I hope that traffic issues will be addressed, especially on Copra, since it's the only other access to that area. And I know that in talking with past residents, the hill behind the middle school becomes a reviewing stand of sorts because it looks right down on the competition area. And I can imagine the traffic up onto that hill is going to be quite intense. The second thing I'd like to talk about is the roundabouts, and I put this right in your laps. People don't know about them. I walk down the street, I say, hey, have you heard about the roundabouts? And they're saying, what roundabouts? We have no idea. Roundabouts in our town? This needs to be publicized. This needs to be addressed to the public much, much more. Nobody that I have spoken to, 0, have agreed with wanting roundabouts in our community. And I would address our guests wherever they wandered off to. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. Bad glasses. I would invite you to spend a week driving through our town. This isn't a city. This isn't a town full of young people who are going to adapt to these roundabouts quickly. This is a city that is retirees. And if you get behind one of our retirees doing 25 miles an hour in the 50-mile-an-hour zone down 181, who come to the intersection and then park there until the entire street is clear before they begin their left turn, they're going to reach these roundabouts and they're going to park there. You're not going to have a reduction of speed. You're going to have a parking lot at these roundabouts. The second thing that I would address is the size of the vehicles going through these roundabouts. I've been through your roundabout down at 404, and I ride a motorcycle, and I hope the city's planning on parking a road cleaner there, because the sand and gravel that will blow onto it and become a hazard to motorcycles is a big issue down, especially on that 404 roundabout. And the size of the vehicles, our RVs, are lots of RVs making those roundabouts. I know, I've seen the designs, I've seen how there's a skid zone in the middle for the trucks to make their turn, but our RVs aren't built like trucks. They're more like buses, and they're going to have difficulty. You're going to end up splitting the town to people coming in on 79 and going 181, because they won't want to go through the roundabouts and go downtown and shop, and vice versa. Walmart, Denny's, all that's going to be cut off from the south end of town. So I tell you, these roundabouts are not good.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the commission? Hans?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, City Manager, and City Clerk. Hans Townsend, Desert View Inn and Chamber of Commerce. I've got a couple of little comments I'd like to make today. One is that we definitely stand behind having the desert racing out there. We think it's an awesome idea. And it may bring, although that weekend is very busy, it's mainly out of the lake, and it will bring a little activity into town. So behind that all the way. Secondly, last Monday evening, there was something that occurred that brought something back to my memory. About 4 or 5 months ago, the water from the sprinklers on the Main Street, the beginning of Main Street, when you come down Date and turn into Main Street around that sharp turn, 3 or 4 months ago, a vehicle went around that corner and went through the window of the northern building on Main Street there. And that poor guy's still waiting for insurance to fix his window. And it's something I've mentioned to the city before, that it floods out there with the sprinklers. And last Monday evening, I got a call at midnight from the guy who lived there and said, the road's full of water again. So I said, all right, I'll come down and have a look. While I was on my way down there, somebody went down that corner and shot across the road, and we had another accident there. And it's only because of the aquaplaning on the water that comes out of those sprinklers. I don't see that we need a lawn in the middle of our one-way system. And if it's going to cause crashes and maybe accidents that hurt people, I think we should think in a different direction. The trees are beautiful on there, and we could put local sprinklers that just irrigate, and irrigation lines there, instead of having sprinklers that spray all over the roads as soon as they get out of whack. I think we should think really about getting rid of that. And water on that road there is definitely not a good idea, and we've seen that, and seen what happens. Sorry, everything shuts down when you don't look at it. I did want to ask the city too, if you have a leader program in place yet. It's something we've been waiting for, and when the chamber talks to people, it's something that we don't have anything that we can tell them, because we know we've heard that you're working on it, but we haven't actually got anything. And so if you've got anywhere with a leader program and work with the county, we'd really like to know about it, because it would really help to bring people in. Most cities now have that in place, and so we're competing with other places all the time, and that would really be a benefit. We'd appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And have a good day.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the... Okay, Mr. Fenn?
Good morning, Commission. Ron Fenn, 316 North Foch. Last meeting, I spoke about the appraisal of the Lee Bell Johnson Center. Since then, I received a copy of the paid invoice, the check signed by Mr. Steve Green for that McAdoo and South Foch appraisal. The appraisal, which was not discussed at the February 28th decision-making for the MOU on the Spaceport Visitor Center. I read from the minutes of that meeting. Mayor Green responded, as to the utility bill, there was only one electric hookup. That's a lie. There are two. One is being charged to the library for the heating and cooling of that building. Secondly, okay, then continuing, We asked staff to run some numbers to see what the usage was for previous years, previously when it was used as a recreational building. It also had a few concerts. Thank you very much, Mr. Green. We also have a library in there and Geronimo's scenic trails in there. The building, on average, is running $268 for the entire building. That is based on below cost for the electricity that the city charges itself at that building. And no other agency of any kind, state, local, or federal, gets that kind of a break. He thinks $300 is a fair and reasonable fee. $300 a month for utilities, when the utilities are more than double that, and nothing for the $19,548 rent that the city is due for that, the people are due for that. There is nothing driving our community other than economic development. Give me a break. We need to work with our citizens to buy local and help raise our GRT. Our GRT runs at less than 15% of our budget. He feels we should get on with this and not take it to the voters, which was recommended by Commissioner Frankel at the time, that the people should decide what happens with their building of 80 years and not 5 people. This is ludicrous. And Mr. Green, thanks to your lies and your deception, I believe that you should resign your position as the mayor and get off of this board and leave it to somebody with a little bit more integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Anyone else want to address the, Angela?
Good morning, Mayor, members of the commission. I'd just like to comment on, I'm sorry, Angela Rael, 164 Las Palmas Road. I'm in South Central RTPO Program Manager, and Regional Transportation Planning is what my program consists of. And I'd just like to comment on the work that the NMDOT has done. We initially had asked them to come into our meeting, and Officer Ontiveros was there. We presented them with a bunch of data, things that we had noticed that had been happening. I'm a former elementary school teacher and principal, and I have walked my class across that street for field trips. And it's treacherous, it's dangerous, you know, and the resources at the time, you know, we couldn't call the police to say, hey, can you block off the road for a minute? I have 25-year-olds walking across the street. It's very, very dangerous. And if it is the true intention to address safety on that road, I agree. I know we have revenue sources that come in with travelers and such. You know, people get used to it. It's just a little curve in the road and you go straight, and it's not difficult to navigate it. And I think that, you know, we do a disservice to anybody, even the elderly, if we feel like they can't figure that out. So, you know, I think it's the best solution. And if it is true safety that we want to address on that intersection, then that really is the only option. So I thank you for listening, and thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Aldone? Whoops, Lieutenant Baker, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'll be quick. I know there's a lot of people waiting. On a positive note, I just want to say real quick, hello and good morning to everybody. As you know, my name is Lieutenant Erica Baker. I'm with the Truth or Consequences Police Department. I've been there for a little over 7 years now. I've been through 4 different chiefs of police since I've been there. First was Chief Patrick Gallagher. The second was Chief Priscilla Mullins. The third was Chief Leo Laris, and the current is Chief Michael Apodaca. Each one of them had their own ideas on how to run the department and how exactly it should be run. The only difference between all of them is Chief Apodaca is the only one I've worked consecutively with for the last 7 years. I started my law enforcement career here in 2011 with the Sierra County Sheriff's Department. He was my undersheriff there. When I moved over to the TRC Police Department, he wasn't far behind and followed me, which he was then my sergeant and my captain, and now is my chief. There's not one bad thing I can say about, sorry, I get a little emotional, about Chief Apodaca. He's one of the best people that I know. I'm sorry. Someone that I've looked up to and I continue to look up to. It's really meaningful to me And to the rest of my officers to say that we would lay down our lives for Chief Apodaca because he would lay down his life for us. In our line of work, that's pretty important. I know most of the department shares my feeling as well as by their standing up here with me. You will not find anybody more invested in this community or this department. Someone who truly cares about the people who work for him. Someone who is not afraid to stand up and do the right thing no matter what the cost. So we are all here today standing for him to show the City Commission and the City Manager our belief and confidence in Chief Apodaca retaining the job of Chief of Police for the Tier C Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Trujillo, I think you were, yes, there you are. Okay, you were next.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to speak today. You all had a meeting on yesterday, I guess it was, and I want to talk about that. But regarding the roundabouts, I happen to work in Brasilia, and Brasilia is a town built in Brazil. It's the capital now, and it was built before any people lived there. And roundabouts they're all over the place. In the whole weekend, I never stopped once. There's no stop signs. I mean, there are, but where I went, it just kept going. You never stopped. It was wonderful. I hope they're going to incorporate that here. I'm not sure that they are. Anyway, you all had a meeting, and don't know what you all spoke about. I don't know whether the public was invited. It wasn't clear, and I didn't want to drive up there and find out that it wasn't. I did call the city, and I just didn't get through. But anyway, I hope it was productive. When I first came here in 2012 and started attending meetings, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. I saw decisions being made, and it didn't make sense to me. I'm a procurement officer in the federal government. That's what I retired as, and a lot of the stuff that you didn't make sense to me. So I started reading a lot. I read all your ordinances. As a matter of fact, I've given all of you the ordinances that I've set out with what the duties for the city commissioners are and for the city manager are, because I sometimes think you just don't know. I also think you just don't know about procurement regulations. And I was thinking, well, if I were organizing that kind of a meeting, what would I have done? One of them was, let's go over some of the ordinances that are in place that we're not following. And Mr. Fuentes, you know that there are a lot of them like that. And I don't know why you just don't take them off the books. Why don't you talk about it and say, we're not going to follow this. We don't like these. We're not going to do it. We don't want a convention entertainment center. We don't want to have a a personnel board. We don't want that. We're going to take it off the boards. Just do it. It's called rule of law. This is a nation. You're not supposed to be cherry pick what you want to follow. You're supposed to follow them all. It's not that hard either. I mean, it really isn't. And it's real disappointing. I've talked about contracts. How about you're violating stuff? Right now, the Gaylord contract for the finance, you're cutting it. You're making a 4-year contract into 4 one-year contracts. The golf contract is over in 2017, yet you allow it to continue. I'm beside myself. I mean, I'm trying to tell you personally and in emails, and you all don't seem to do anything. And you never public comment about these things. What are you doing about it? It's very disappointing. I don't like saying this, but this is my community, guys. I grew up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Anka Sananan So, and I'm a new resident here in Truth or Consequences.
Welcome.
And thank you. And first of all, I would just like to say to the mayor and to the commissioners, I'm really happy to be moving down here. It's a transition. Obviously, it takes a minute to get all the way down here. But I'm very happy to be here. I'm very excited about the community, what I can see is happening here, and what I could see for future endeavors, especially in the arts. My brother, I think you might know him, Mayor Darrell Smith, is my brother. He's
2 blocks away. I live from him.
Yeah, and so he's very interested in helping art development. But my comment is specifically for the roundabout. Where I lived in Oakland, California, they put a roundabout at the bottom of my hill. There's like 5 streets that come together, and there was just stop signs before. And my first reaction was pretty much like what the gentleman had spoke about before, is like, nobody knows about roundabouts. There's going to be accidents, and it's going to be a problem. And initially, and it continues on occasion, to be a little confusing for some people. They don't understand the rules of a roundabout, that it's, you know, there are stop signs at our roundabout in all directions, actually. But entering into the roundabout and getting around was a little confusing at first. But it did solve a problem. There was, you know, in our case, it was people doing donuts in the middle of the night. But in this case, what I'm concerned about is what you brought up about the larger vehicles, and I'm wondering if the gentleman had considered that. And then the other part, from my personal experience, would be, especially in this community that's small, it will be a learning curve. And what will we do to help have that happen? So maybe at this workshop, which I don't know the date, if it's already been planned, but maybe a presentation could be given with some video or animation for the community to see, that would address the issues of the learning curve for everyone, the larger vehicles. And then the other thing would be, what about for people who are not from the community, who are just driving and then encounter, maybe for the first time in their lives, a roundabout? Thank you.
Very much, appreciate it. Ms. Wheeler.
Good morning still, Carol Wheeler, Truth to Consequences. And I'm speaking because before Mr. Mayor was even a commissioner, I remember telling him, once I get done with this dog park and this square dance festival, we're going to do some racing here. And look what we got. That racing is a great family sport. It is. I mean, you see all kinds of stuff, but racing is a family sport. Much like square dancing is family. Square dancing non-alcoholic. Racing community is basically non-alcoholic, and everyone has their partiers, but mostly it is non-alcoholic, and I really welcome them. And thank you, everybody that's still here, just Mark probably. I had a lot of faith that sometime we'd get some racing here, so that's a good thing. And even though my dance card is full, I will offer some sort of service to the racing community, and I have a family full of friends, like 10 of them, that are right behind me on this. So treat them great. They'll do a good job for our town and area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, Manager. My name is Jared Bartu. Been a lifelong local resident, taxpayer in Tier C. I would like to state my support for the off-road park and the racing. These guys are top-notch, and I know they won't let us down. It'd be nice to see a new change and something brought into this town. I'm also going to ask you to consider supporting a new ordinance allowing off-highway vehicles on the streets. The state allows municipalities to make their own decisions on this. Elephant Butte has passed this ordinance in my hand almost 2 years ago. Farmington, Alamogordo, Doñana County, they all have similar ordinances in place. Our area is perfect for this and has great potential for tourism. As the gentleman already said, in the 60s and 70s, off-road racing was a huge part of this community and the industry in this area. In fact, my father won in 1964 with no helmet and one little hoop roll cage and no seat belts, and his passenger lives on Riverside, and they can both tell you about it. He's still got the Jeep in the garage. you have already passed private property protection ordinances recently, so at least there is penalties and protections in place for landowners that have reservations about this. There are provisions for insurance and license requirements as well. Colorado and Arizona are already embracing this, and they are succeeding, and they are witnessing huge amounts of influx of tourism. We are losing more and more population every day. We're falling further behind. Please support this for our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Anyone else want to? Yes, sir.
Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, I'm Lieutenant Josh Baker. I work for Sierra County Sheriff's Department. Here to show support for a couple of things. One thing, I think the race they're putting together is a great thing for our community. It might stress us a little bit in a law enforcement sense on the big holidays, but we'll make do like we always do. Second off, on that same note, I'm here representing myself, but also several of the deputies at the Sheriff's Department in support of Chief Mike Apodaca for the upcoming Chief of Police. Under previous administrations, the working relationship has not been great between the two entities. Once Chief Apodaca took the helm, that came together really well. We've had several cases in the past couple of months where the city police and the county deputies worked together to get some violent criminals off our streets. This wasn't possible under other administrations, and it's worked out really well. I think he's done a great job. He's vested in the community, and he seems to be making decisions based on what's best for the community and his department. And we'd really like to see him have a chance at continuing that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Lorena?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, Commissioners. I'm Lorena Miller, 512 North Boats, and I am the supervisor for the Geronimo Trail Visitor Center. During 2017, we had a 10% increase in visitors coming from all over the United States and foreign countries. We had 7,340 people sign in during 2007. So far in 2018, we had a 17% increase in January, a 22% increase in February, and a 20% increase in March. March of this year, we had the most visitors in a single month, 1,030. Of those, 299 were from New Mexico, only 34 of which were from Sierra County. We had 627 visitors from other states, with the most being Texas with 104, Colorado with 80, Minnesota with 51, and California with 40. Of the 104 from Texas, 67 listed El Paso as home. Only 8 states of the 50 were not represented by a visitor from somewhere in that state. We do not ask for names, but we had 24 people who did not list where they were from. We had 104 visitors from other countries in March. The most were from Canada with 75. Most of these people eat in our restaurants, many spend a night or two in our hotels, soak in our mineral waters, and shop. They go out to the surrounding area and explore Chloride, Hillsborough, Kingston, and other places of interest. Approximately 80% of the visitors are first-timers. There are a lot of returnees to town, but most of them already have the information that we have given them, and they don't need to come back for more information. They've already planned what they want to do. We have a wonderful and helpful staff of volunteers and are open 7 days a week to welcome people. We have, with our volunteer hours at the volunteer rate designated by the Highway Administration, we give the city about $42,000 or a little over in volunteer time in a year. We thank the City of Truth and Consequences, City Manager Fuentes, and the City Commissioners for their continued support in our efforts to promote Truth or Consequences in Sierra County as a tourism destination. And I have for you an overview of visitation statistics from 2010 to the present.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good job. Anyone else want to address the commission? Yes, sir.
Hello, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm here to show my support to...
Could you just state your name, sir, for the record?
My name is Tito Ontiveros. I'm a patrol officer as well as a school resource officer. And I'm here to support Chief Apalaca. I've known Chief Apalaca for longest years, from the middle school, high school, we're in the same graduating class. In the military, we're in the same unit. And I know this man real well. He's very supportive of his troops. He takes care of his troops. And there's nothing that's been said in the community bad about him. He's from here, he was raised here, and he knows the community well as the people. And I think if you give him the opportunity for him to be our chief, it will be greatly appreciated. He will support his officers, and he is 100% behind us. And like Lieutenant Baker said, he will lay his life for us as we will for him. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you for your, beg your pardon? Almost lost up to Belleville, Stanley.
Dilly dilly for Chief Apodaca.
Can you state your name?
Good morning. Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, and Renee, thank you.
Can you please state your name, sir?
Stanley Rickert.
Thank you.
1705 Cary Street here in TRC. I'm here to address the commission about a letter that was, well, supposed to be for me, but it was addressed to Miss Susanna Diller. Anyway, the letter came after I submitted an application and some complaints about the neighborhood, in my neighborhood of what was going on as far as a commercial business in a residential zone. Back to the letter, though. It is worded with unfounded suggestions. There's no proof or evidence of what he submitted. He mentions a commercial business, but is not in a residential zone. He says prior owner used property for commercial business before annexation in a similar manner. This is a false statement. I'm sorry, I should have started out by saying this letter was submitted from the city attorney, Mr. Rubin. He says it appears current use was grandfathered in the late 1980s and in mid-1980s. It's not a positive statement. His suggestions for non-enforcement are all unfounded. There is a lack of positive proof or licensing or permits. The facts are misconstrued so to lead you astray from the truth. The truth is the zone infraction is unjust and it should be addressed as unlawful. To allow this to continue goes against all ordinances regarding the comprehensive plan and zoning districts. Information that is used for recommendation of not enforcing these concerns should be brought out in a legal forum to be addressed as a serious subject and ruled on by the commission for the benefit of all the neighborhood. I'd just like to say, you know, it's going on and it's been continuing, and nobody seems to want to address this as a serious matter. I think if you guys give me a chance, you know, give me on the agenda, we can discuss these things and take care of business like it should be taken care of. The ordinances are there for a reason, right? It's our business as people, as community, to, you know, have something to follow and you know, work with. And this is something that you guys have opportunities to take care of also, okay? So I appreciate your time, and I want to thank you for this time, for letting me talk.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once, going twice?
Good morning, Mayor, City Commissioners. Linda DiMarino with Main Street Truth or Consequences. A couple things coming up. This Saturday will be the second Saturday Art Hop. It looks like there's going to be lots of really good things going on in some of the businesses downtown, and Main Street has commissioned a few musicians to be playing on the street. So we're excited for that event, and I think the weather is going to be really cooperative, so we're looking forward to that. Another thing coming up, Hot Springs Festival, May 11th to 13th. The three cornerstones of that are healthy lifestyle, alternative medicine, and sustainable living. We have workshops, music, hands-on acts, yoga, massage vendors, ceremonies, and other things. It's a really great event. And lastly, Main Street is partnering with the county and different city entities for the shuttle. And basically, the shuttle is a shuttle that will be on Friday and Saturday, and will go from Elephant Butte to TRC starting Memorial Day weekend. So I was going to encourage our desert race people to maybe tap into that, because we have tens of thousands of people out in Elephant Butte that might be interested in that, and they have the opportunity to get the shuttle to bring them into town for that. And if there's a possibility of creating some kind of little interim shuttle, they could have a whole lot more people at their event. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, we have a gentleman.
Yes, sir. Would it be more convenient? Okay. I think we can move the microphone over.
Good morning, folks. I'm Glen Street off the Rodeo Arena Road. We were talking about the Cherry Street. I wanted to talk earlier, but I'm going to talk now. 1980, I moved here from California. Bought a place on Riverside Drive. It had gotten so busy, I decided to look for a residential neighborhood. I moved into my address that I'm at now on Glen Street in 1980, February the 17th. It was a quiet, nice neighborhood. I put a lot of money into my property. I have 3 acres and 3 homes out there. Never had a problem. Once in a while, I have to repair the roads or get the city to repair them for me. Since then, I've had people moving in the back on Cary Street, and it wound up being a storage unit. They started hauling in heavy equipment, trailers. Now they're bringing in storage sheds and putting in there. When I first met them, they tore down my chain link fence. When I bought my property, I had cedar posts, chain link fence, barbed wire all the way around the whole property, the 3 acres. I put brand new chain link fencing, posts, everything in, fenced it, cross-fenced it, and everything. Since these people have moved in, I've lost 3 fences. I had to wind up in the Veterans Hospital here. I just got out a couple days ago. I got to go back. And while I was laying in there, I got a phone call that the people in the storage yard had chopped down a globe willow. It had been sitting there since I bought the property. And where did it land? On top of my fence. Smashed my fence down for the 4th time. And I'm getting very tired of having to replace my fence. I can't cut the weeds. I moved my fence line in 2 foot off the property line into my property so I'd have space to keep it clean. As of now, I can't keep it clean. They run their heavy equipment all night long. They get out there and they rev up their diesel fuel and everything all night long. And I have to smell this, and when I go in my backyard to relax, I can't relax because all I got to look at is heavy equipment, trucks, storage units, all kinds of junk moving in there. And it's supposed to be residential. I'd like to have somebody come down, take a look, see what's going on, and possibly try to straighten it out. I put a lot of money in my property. I got 3 acres of lawn, ponds, trees, the whole 9 yards, everything. And I keep it clean. I expect the same from my neighbors on the next street. If I'd have known that they were going to put a storage unit in there and get away with it, I'd have never bought that place. I'm going on 25 years on that property. I've never had a problem until these folks here moved in, started bringing all this heavy equipment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Seeing none, we're going to move on. Thank you for your comments and your participation. I beg your pardon. Sorry, sir. Did not see you.
My name is Jerry Kowalski. I live at 1700 Cary Street. I've been there mainly since 1970. I started a business. I went with all y'all's programs and everything else. First, I did mechanical work and worked out of town because I couldn't make a living in this deep city here. I went and done everything I could. I got all my license. I've done everything by the law. But the chief knows exactly what has happened and everything else. I went out of business.
I'm now in a process of cleaning up only. And I think that this deep city needs to really change a whole lot of things. Mr. Green, if you have people from Texas, then I'm probably kin to you. I'm probably kin to everybody here. I don't put that out. I'm a private person. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Sorry I didn't recognize you when you were walking in the corner. Anyone else? Seeing none, the next item is response to public comment. I would just like to start on this with my permission with my fellow commissioners. I want to read two emails I got in support of the racing, and they asked that I do this. The first is from John Masterson, who's the owner of the brewery here in town with his wife. Dear Mayor, Mr. Mayor, rather, please enter the following during public testimony regarding the racetrack event being explained by Mark Bleth on April 11, 2018. I am a newcomer to TRC and didn't know about the racetrack asset. Bringing events like this to town is a fantastic idea because even with a free event, more people means more gas, food, lodging, supplies, equipment, and refreshments will be purchased by visitors. If we can be good hosts, they will return again and again, and so this sounds like a no-brainer investment to me. I hope you will support it with enthusiasm. Signed, name is John Masterson, downtown TRC. And the other email, I guess there's another Steve Green in town because it's from Steve Green to Steve Green, and I don't do that. And it reads as follows. I think this would be an awesome opportunity for this town. As a kid growing up, I rode at the track when it was a track, and it would be awesome to get people and more attention to this town. And this would be a great opportunity to get some motocross racers here and get a new track built. I would be a part of this. It is awesome thought, and it would be amazing to see it happen. Thank you, Steve Green. I wanted to do that. I wanted to come back to have the opportunity to respond to some of the comments that I heard today. But I want to open it up to my fellow commissioners, and I want to take the microphone here. So are there any comments from my fellow commissioners in response to public comment? Seeing none, then I will move on. Where to begin? Okay, Mr. Townsend, I think, is left, but the city does have a LIDA Act, and the brewery took advantage of that LIDA Act. The brewery opened in June of 2017. I can't tell you when the city passed that. Would it be an ordinance? No.
Yes.
That ordinance, but obviously it was before June of 2017, and we have a business that has taken advantage of that. I cannot believe that the president of the chamber has no knowledge of this. It's been written up in the papers. It's been talked about. He comes to our city commission meetings occasionally. I don't understand it, but please, Hans, if you're listening, call up the city, and they'll be more than happy to give you a copy of the ordinance, and you can use that to help promote businesses moving into town. In relationship to Mr. Fenn's kind offer of me to take early retirement from my position as a commissioner, thank you for the offer, sir. In relationship to the 2 meters, and maybe I misunderstood Mr. Fenn when he talked, I was talking about just the 1 meter that was kind of assigned to the area that was the Spaceport Visitor Center. I thought that the library meter had nothing to do with anything. But if I misspoke, I'd like to correct that right now. The last thing, and I think it's the most important thing, actually, is, quote unquote, people should decide. And I apologize to Mr. Fenn if I heard this wrong. And I apologize to my fellow commissioners if I am misstating it. But unless my memory has totally gone, I believe we had a vote on the LaBelle Johnson and its usage and the best impact for this community. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the vote was darn near 600 in favor of the decision, unanimous decision, by the way, of this commission, that the changing the usage of that building to what it is now
would have the greatest economic impact on a lot of the businesses that generate the GRT. And I'm not only talking about the money that is made from the tours, but I'm talking about the money that is made from the people from Michigan last Saturday that I met to deliver some brochures down to the Final Frontier tour company. And they were from Michigan. And I asked them, have they enjoyed our hot springs? And they said, oh yeah, we stayed overnight at the Riverbend. Not giving the Riverbend a plug, but that's where they stayed. In December, when they opened up the tours, we had people from Canada here. And I said, have you enjoyed our hot springs? Did you come in and stay overnight? And the answer was, yeah, we stayed at the Pelican Spa, but we checked out. And I got very defensible, like, why'd you check out? You know, what was going on here? What was wrong? And they said, well, that was a tub type of hot springs. We wanted to try, we hear that someone's got a river view. And so we moved the next day, that's 2 nights of lodging, into the Riverbend. So it's not necessarily the money that the city derives from the sale of tickets or anything. It's the overall picture of what the impact of that building is doing. And is it what we really wanted to do? For me, no. But if you saw recently the successful launch and the flight of Unity, a couple more flights, they'll be coming to Sierra County, they'll be coming to Spaceport America. They got to stay someplace, they got to eat someplace, they got to fill up their cars someplace. Last time I drove out to Spaceport America, there was no asset out there whatsoever other than Spaceport America. So I think just to talk about restricted numbers without the overview of what the overall anticipated and present impact is, it only can go one way as far as I'm concerned, and that is up. So that vote was taken by the citizens, and they voted almost 6-1 in favor of the repurposing of a portion of that building. And this commission and city manager made very sure that if we were going to quote-unquote displace some citizens who were using the LaBelle Johnson for recreational purposes, that we gave them another place to do the same activities, and the city did that. So when Mr. Fenn talks about people should decide, I thought that's how you decide, by having an election. Obviously, he and I disagree on what that means. The last thing is, I said we were going to, at the forum, that we were going to reply over a period of time when we got the answers to some of your concerns. And some of the questions that were asked, the people who asked the questions are not here. So I would most respectfully ask that we postpone some of this that I was going to do, if you could still leave that up on the wall board, if it's all possible. But I would like to respond to one ongoing comment, theme that we heard, and that was about code enforcement. So I wrote down this. Code enforcement, who is involved? And I think a lot of the citizens don't understand the process. And so I wrote down last year, Ray Chavez and whoever else issues citations, violations, over 1,000 were issued last year. And I started writing down names of who participates in this process. And here's what I got. And anyone else that comes up with additional names, please feel to jump in. Police chief, code enforcement officer, building inspector Robbie Travis and/or Susanna Diller, our planner. City's attorneys such as Jay Rubin, or from Santa Fe, John Appel. The fire chief, Paul Tooley. The city manager, the city commission, the court system. So to help, I think, the community, Manager Fuentes, understand the process better, would it be possible by our next city commission meeting to give us an example? Don't even use people's names, even though they're for public record. Give us an example of a pretty quick turnaround on someone who was cited and then that process was completed, and a process that took a long time and might even be still ongoing. No names, but if you could have the right person or department make a presentation to the commission, I think it would better enable and help our citizens to understand the process and maybe take away some of their legitimate concerns, but maybe put them in the right phrase. Okay, so that's all I'm going to talk about the forum. Okay, we move on. I'd like to do the consent calendar, then we have been meeting for 2.5 hours. If the commission would like to take a 3 to 4 minute recess, I would like to do that. I will tell you that I have a doctor's appointment at 1:45 at Sierra Vista Hospital. So if we're running very, very late, I'm sorry to pull this on you, Mayor Pro Tem. I will shut up and we'll just do business, because I got to get out of here. All right, I'm looking for a motion to approval of the consent calendar, which consists of City Commission regular minutes, March 14, 2008, accounts payable, March 2018, approved change in the USDA street sweeper account name to USDA equipment grants per USDA funding request. Number 4, approve the annual Law Enforcement Protection Fund application. And number 5, appointment of Bridget Long to the Library Advisory Board.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar as noted.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead.
I second it.
I have a second by Commissioner Baca. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. We are in recess for 3 minutes. Dan, we'd like to move on. Thank you. Appreciate it. Unfinished business, number G. Number 1, discussion update, short-term residential rental updates, be presented by Clerk Treasurer Renee Camden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I'm going to try and move this right along. Last year, the Commission approved the short-term residential rentals ordinance and a resolution that was setting the fees, which will require those who list their property for rental for a short period of time to be licensed in a licensed business with the city and to pay lodger's tax and convention center fees. The short-term rentals can be found on one of the vacation rental sites such as Airbnb, VRBO, which is vacation rentals by owner, HomeAway, etc. On March 15th, the letters of notification were sent out to all the property owners who were identified by our planner GIS tech, Susanna Diller. And to date, we've had the following responses. There's a correction to what's on the commission action form. We actually have 3 who have submitted their paperwork for compliance. And I have, on Monday I met with someone and walked her all the way through. She didn't quite understand, so that was a great meeting. And I will offer that to anybody who receives the letter. If you're not sure about the process or what to do, please give us a call. We'll set up a meeting and walk through it. And we have a couple of owners who responded who aren't using it as a short-term rental. Someone had sold their property and decided they weren't going to continue that way. And one that responded, no dwelling on her property fits within the Section 3 definition. She actually has a studio with no separate rooms, and the ordinance is written to where, per our zoning code, they have to be separate rooms. 3 mail were returned, 2 we sent out to the address on file with County Assessor's Office, and now we've got 15 with no response instead of 16. We plan to send a second notice to those who have not responded, and we'll work on posting a notice on the door also for compliance. So if anybody's there, we can get them down to our office. We were notified by the mayor about a webinar for a company that will work on things. for lodging tax, and actually they have a good process for short-term rentals that I think we could really benefit from. And I sat through that with Executive Secretary Christian Saavedra. It was a company that works with the city of El Paso and many other municipalities. They would actually be willing to review our ordinances that we do have in place, because our lodgers tax ordinance is rather old. And they have experience in locating the short-term rental facilities and help bring in all of those into compliance. They also offer external lodgers tax audit services, and indicated they would do monthly reporting and coordination between the city and the lodging facilities to ensure we're getting all the required revenues. And so we'll be working with finance, depending on who takes over those duties and how we proceed with that. And I'm working on a proposal, so I'd like to get with you, Melissa, so we can see what they really have to offer before we present it to the city manager. With that, we do feel there is a need to include in Section 3 some wording in the future to allow for casitas and studios that might not have fully separate rooms, but they still meet the egress for safety reasons. So I'll open that up with any questions. That is our update at this point.
Thank you.
I did have a couple things that Susanna emailed me, but I think I may have covered with their inspections. I know that the fire chief has one inspection scheduled out of those 3 they're working on the applications for.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns from the commission? I would just like to go for the record that being the optimist that I am, and that Virgin Galactic is going to happen, and the first launch will happen, we want to capture as much housing and lodging opportunities that we have. I mean, I understand that we only have so many rooms, and Las Cruces will get the lion's share, but I want to make sure that we position ourselves to be the recipient of as much dollars as humanly possible in this one-time event for the world. And so I would just ask you to keep that clock ticking in your head to get it done as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Aaron, and I'll work on pushing forward now that the elections are over with it. Another thing I thought about when we request the proposals is maybe just request this company to help in the meantime, just a separate proposal for only short-term rentals and how to get out there and get them.
Good, thank you, appreciate it. The next item on the agenda is discussion action FY 2016-2017 audit action plan. Our presenter is our Director of Finance, Ms. Melissa Torres.
Here it is.
Good morning, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, City Manager, Mr. Fuentes, City Clerk, Ms. Canton. The City of Truth or Consequences wants to present our FY 16-17 resolved audit findings and also our current findings along with our action plan. Sorry about that. So one of the things I really want to share with you is one of the requirements in finance is to attend our state auditors training. And one of the objectives is to see what they're looking for and understanding what they're expecting. One of the things that our new state auditor, Wayne Johnson, advised us was about having continuous audit findings over and over and over, and developing an action plan. And this is something that they're going to put into state statute. So I'm really happy that we're being proactive and presenting it in this way where they're going to, as of next year, start requiring us to do that. With that being said, 2 of the audit findings, which was the design of the deficiencies and internal control over financial reporting and capital assets, were one of the 2s that we carried for quite some time. I am very proud of not only the finance staff,
but also our management team, because it took a lot of education and training. Because they were used to doing things the way that they were taught in the past. And to understand what, for example, capital asset is, the whole mindset was that capital asset was the whole responsibility of finance. But that couldn't be the case because we're not seeing what's coming in and we're not seeing what's going out. And so it took a lot of educations and trainings that we had to provide to our department heads to understand what is their role. What is their role in part about their capital assets? What is their role in fixed asset? What is their role in inventory? And once we made them understand that they're part of the solution, but not only part of the solution, they're part of the team to ensure that the city is being good stewards in this area, it definitely made things a lot easier. The other thing is deficiencies in the internal control. Again, it goes about educating and training. And, I have to commend Mr. Fuentes because I was always, I need to give a training. We need to cover this. Just because that's what it needs. We need to make sure that in finance, we're guiding them. We're providing them the support and the understanding of what their role is. And that is one thing that where we have to develop a lot of our internal control for them to understand. Our financial closing and reporting, that was more of our inside for finance, where we needed to understand how we should be closing our books and opening our books at the end of the fiscal year and opening our books at the beginning of the fiscal year. The late audit was due to, as you guys know, it was a huge, tremendous changeover from ADG to Tyler. And so with that being said, one of the biggest goals the city had was, with the new system, was no garbage going in. But unfortunately, we had a lot of stumbles, and there was a lot of cleanup that we had to do. And so with this, with our advice from our auditors, along with meeting some of our commissioners and Mr. Fuentes, we made the decision that the best thing was to take that late audit so we can ensure that we have a great foundation of cleaning this up and we can move forward. And it was really worth it. Procurement. Procurement was another thing that we definitely had a situation with. And again, it goes back to training, educating, and guiding our field and our management of how procurement works. So again, that was things that we definitely taught our managers and gave them the guidance. Our last was the impact fees. And I'm sure you guys have heard that for quite some time. And so that was one thing that we really had to look into and evaluate and look about making our changes that we needed to do on our internal controls, but not only by following our internal controls, by our ordinance and by state statute. So with that being said, our current findings and action. I am very, very pleased to announce that the City of Truth or Consequences received an unmodified action. What does that mean? That means that's the best that we can get on audit findings. And again, it goes to the staff, my team, but not only that, the management team, willing and eager to learn and make these changes that we're needing to make. And it was challenging because you have senior staff that were used to these steps that they were always taught in the past. And when we come in, we're having to completely take that whole drawing board away from them and give them new crayons and tell them that this is what it looks like. Cash disbursement was one of them. This is one of the things in regards to cash disbursement where POs were done after the fact of invoices. So basically by state statutes, what we have to follow is that any time a PO is done, it has to be done prior to an invoice. Okay, But let's be in real life. You know, emergencies happen, situations happen. And so that's where it's our job in finance to give them the guidance and the understanding of what tools they have, such as the emergency procurement that they can utilize. Such as we also read into our action plan that they could contact Mr. Fuentes at any time and let him know this is the situation, this is why we have to purchase it, and then we just have to document that. So that would comply within our state statutes. So, you know, little things like that was very important in providing them that guidance and understanding. The next one is our payroll disbursements. This one was one of our bigger ones, and as you guys know, finance is very broad. We go from budgeting to purchasing to accounts payable to payroll to HR. And so one of the things that we had in HR was we had a lot of forms, but what the forms were being utilized was almost as a routine versus or a chore. And anytime you have a form that's being just a routine or a chore, you lose the definition of what the purpose is for that form. So what we had to do is really define why are we using these forms and what's the purpose. And so what we did was we took this form and we modified it into the purpose is what it's supposed to be, but then adding two more for the other purpose being, so we can ensure that we're not going to have that mistake again. Cash receipts. This is one of the things that the city is working with the clerk's office to help them out. Cash disbursements, as you know, as per city policy, is any deposits have to be deposited within 24 hours. If it's not deposited within the 24 hours, then we're in violation of our own policy. In regards to that also, is we have to have that supporting documentation and the understanding of what we're collecting and why are we collecting that money. So a great example I can give you is, you know, we go to Walmart and you have a big cart of groceries. You know, the cashier doesn't say, well, give me what you think that is. No, you know, they ring it up and tally, and they have that supporting documentation telling them exactly what the cost is going to be. Well, that's the same thing. We run a business. As accounts receivable, we are required to have that supporting documentation to understand the path and the reasoning of why we're charging our customers, our lodgers, our building permits, our impact fees. And so that's one of the things that we're making that's in a transition right now, and also working with Ms. Canton's department. The next one is travel and per diem. So let me kind of make you understand a little bit with the travel and per diem. We do have what it's called an administrative financial policy, but our financial administrative policy that we have adopted is in accordance with the state statute. So what that means is every year, if the feds change their per diem rate, then we're required to change that per diem rate also, which is based on a formula. And unfortunately, there was a couple when we opened the fiscal year that it was on the old per diem. I can assure you that this won't happen again. Next one is para. So the para is based on the reconciling. As you know, Paige Vest, who is our new payroll administrator for the city, now what she does is she reconciles everything before we pay any of our vendors, meaning para, meaning our benefits. That was something that wasn't done in the past. And unfortunately, what the auditors do is they do what it's called as a lottery. We give them a number from the beginning of the fiscal year to the end of the fiscal year, and they basically take it in their computer, and then they provide us a list. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 15 of certain packages they want to review. There was one package that needed to be reviewed, which was prior to Paige's time. And that's the one where we got this audit finding. And so again, I assure you that that is something that we're not going to see with Ms. Best. As she stated at her last presentation, something that wasn't done in the past was a lot of reconciling on each payroll to all the accounts payable. Chief procurement. This is one of those things that I tell my staff, this is a gimme. These are these ones that we really don't want to let get by us. But what happens is by state procurement, our chief procurements are required to be certified, but not only be certified, we are required to report that on the Sunshine Portal through the state of New Mexico. And unfortunately, we did not do that. So again, this is a gimme, and I can assure you that it will not happen again. On the 21705, cash management, as Mr. Garner explained to you, because we had many grants, and many of them were funded by the feds, that required us to have a single audit. Upon that single audit, what they discovered was their internal controls were missing, where finance needed to be a little bit more involved into that internal controls when it came to our grants. And that's something we already have put into place and have procedures that we are doing at this time. And at this time, I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Congratulations. Any concerns, questions? Commissioner Hessler, give me that look.
Freak me right up.
You're up. Nice to go. Good news, right?
Just in general, I guess more of a comment for you and for Manager Fuentes. Processing requisition forms takes a lot of time. It takes time in the field for getting the quotes. It takes time for your clerks to process them. It takes time to pick them up, present to the vendor to get them done. I think there was a state study one time, it cost like $80 per requisition form to get it processed all the way through. We're using requisition forms to buy $20 items sometimes. The process is so cumbersome that I'm wondering if we're being kind of productive in some regards. So I'm hoping that you're planning on working on establishing a system where we can either use petty cash or getting open POs in place with certain creditors, or maybe go into credit cards. I think that's the next most important thing that we can do as an office to make sure that our field staff have the tools that they need to do their jobs in a quick and efficient manner. So that's just a comment that I wanted to make. And another comment I guess I want to say is that thank you for not kicking the can down the road. You've had to pick up that can that was kicked down the road from several years in the past, and this time you held it and you recycled it. So that was for you.
That's a great segue. A great segue. And so thank you for doing that. These findings, although they're important, they're not nearly the findings that they were in the past. And so thank you, Manager Fuentes and Administrator Torres, for your hard work in that regard. And I guess the last comment I want to make is cash receipts. It seems to me that cash receipts should be handled at the clerk's office because we're set up for it. There's a window, there's a door, you have security, and I don't understand why we're moving it because do you have this set up to move it to finance, or how are we dealing with that?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, let me jump in, and Melissa can jump in on that. One of the things that we found internally was there was obviously a little bit of a conflict with the mission sometimes of the finance department and the clerk's office. And right now there are some receipts that are collected in the utility office, and there are some receipts that are collected in the clerk's office. In a lot of the communities, they're centralizing those collections into one area. And when the town of Mencia, for example, we collected a lot of them with the utility clerk. And some other communities, they're using because they're already set up for collections, they're processing credit cards and everything else. So it's all being centralized in that location. So in speaking with Melissa, Finance Director, also I had shared it with Renee, the vision that I saw was, I think we would be more efficient if we were to centralize our own collections, since we already have other people who are there doing the same thing that could be cross-trained, but also could be following up on some of the contracts that we have. For example, some of the impact fees that we need to follow up, make sure that they're paid. Some of the other contracts that they are required to receive payments, for example, with the golf course, and other issues. So it's a way for us to do a better job to centralize collections and make sure that we do a better job tracking that. And I think right now the clerk's office and our utility manager, Sonia, is present, so they're working on establishing that operation in the utility office.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how are we going to perform that transaction? Will there be a window for our customers to go to, or do they go to somebody's office, or how does that happen?
There is a location that's being remodeled that will have a window, so that people will go in and make all utility payments. There also will be a separate window that will make the building permits, business registrations, and that sort of thing. That way, we don't have other areas, other departments collecting cash. It's all being centralized, which will give our finance department a better hold on what's happening and make sure that at least there's some accountability on those things that we might have missed collection.
And if I could just add to it, Commissioner Heschler, one of the missions, and that's one of the things that we definitely looked at other communities that were within our size, and that's one of the things that is that finance is all in one umbrella versus finance is half here, half there, and a little bit of here. And so speaking on my behalf as a finance director, it's very challenging when you have certain things that are not under your umbrella and you have really limited oversight. So what you can do is I might have an action plan, but then it can only go to a certain part to where then the other department has to kick in. And so that's one of the things that we really looked at it objectively. What's going to serve this community the best? What are we going to serve the city the best? On top of that was also something we all sat down with our auditors and just had that discussion. I think we have a wonderful audited group, Patia and Brown, that not only are there our auditors, they don't come in with their big red pens. They come in here and be our support and give us the feedback that we're needing, that expertise. But not only that, we have somebody like Mr. G, as we all call him, Mr. Gaylord, who has been a CPA and continues to be a CPA for 43 years. And has done municipalities. And his feedback and his expertise is, it's essential. And that's the one thing that I'm so proud that Mr. Fuentes was such a support of, because if you look at it, we have attorneys, right? He has an expertise for the city. We have architects that we hire, right? They have specialty and they serve a purpose for the city. We have engineers that we bring in. That is an expertise that we also hire. Mr. Gaylord is nothing but different of that. And because we can make these big hurdles that we've made, and these are tremendous hurdles. Honestly, I didn't think we were going to make some of these huge hurdles. It was going to take us about 2 years. And that's because of Mr. G, because we're both burning it on both ends of the candle. In regards to the utility office, I think Ms. Williams has done an excellent job when it comes to diversity and cross-training. One of the biggest things that I was concerned was taking billing in-house and ensuring that we weren't going to have hiccups, meaning that if Sonia's not in the office, is billing going to stop? Because it can't stop. That's a tremendous responsibility. And Ms. Williams has done an excellent job in cross-training her staff. There is not one of her staff that cannot do billing and ensure billing is done. And that includes the red tags, the penalties, the work orders. And so what a better place to have that is under the utility office and have accounts receivable to be there to oversee that. Also contract management, but also have the support of the utility office that can also be cross-trained in regards to that.
And Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, and I think it's important to know that, I think we're beefing up a little bit more on the administrative side to be able to address some of these new requirements from the state. And, you know, whether it's with Gatsby, and then the reason for needing a CPA, some of these things are technical. One of the other things that we're not just looking at AR, we're accounts receivable, we're also looking, for example, the meter readers are now will be under the utility office. And that is to provide better customer service, have a direct communication, supervision from the utility office manager to the meter readers. Customer complaints go to the utility office. Sometimes we were having a lot of kind of delays in resolving some of these issues because the people who were responsible for supervising meter readers were somewhere else. So we're able to make those adjustments. I do want to kind of bring, you know, since we're on this topic, that one of the reasons for looking at this is because of the way we are structured currently. And I've thought about it for many years, but I think now it's time for us to move forward, is in a lot of communities, especially small communities where you have the clerk treasurer oversees both. But in this case, historically, TRC has had a finance director and a clerk. But those separations have never been made. And I think now it's a good time to separate what the treasurer finance does, because we have a director, versus what the clerk does, and focus more on, you know, on those specific specialized areas. And I think that's where we're heading towards. It's kind of making that very clear moving forward.
And let me just add to this. We've become a model, and I mean, that makes us very proud to other communities, municipalities that are with our size, where they're looking into hiring somebody like Mr. G because things are getting such specialized. Mr. G's already had 4 offers from other communities. Of course, I tie him to his chair, and he's not going anywhere. But, you know, just to give you guys an example that communities our size have specialties, because, I mean, look at our grants, multi-million grants alone, you know, our budgets. And so having somebody like Mr. G is only an asset to this community.
Any other questions or concerns from the commission?
Just the comment that it's really nice to have looked at these findings for the last several years since I've been on the commission, and not really embarrassed about them, but just, you know, how come it keeps going over and over and over again, and looking for a fiscal agent to work with us because we've been dinged. And to hear yesterday that we don't have to deal with the fiscal agent any longer is a huge boon for not only the pride I feel in what you've done. I definitely believe in having a CPA in the midst, and also a real compliment to our manager, because that's a struggle.
Yes.
And we threw you some curveballs like the accounting system. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark.
And I'd like to be associated with that lady's remarks, Commissioner Clark. Thank you very much, and congratulations to you and the team that you've put together, and helping us become more efficient, more effective, and moving us more into compliance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, the next item is new business number 1, discussion action, motocross track improvements. Our presenter is our airport manager, Mr. Mark Black.
A little bit higher for me. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Leth. I'm the airport manager, and I welcome the opportunity to speak to the City Commission, Mayor Green, Council Commissioners, Manager Fuentes. So, as you heard earlier from the presentation from the Off-Road Desert Racing League, this track was an engine in this community. It drew people here. And then I put a name to it. This name is obviously up for discussion, but we needed to call it something. The old motocross track isn't exactly fitting at this point. So we're going to move forward with some naming. Whether or not this is the final name, we'll see. But Mud Mountain Recreational Park, this stands alone as an economic engine. You noticed in the presentations earlier we didn't mention hot springs. Not that they don't use hot springs. I'd imagine you're still sore from Saturday's race. So they'll obviously benefit from this activity. But this activity that we're talking about, off-road desert racing, doesn't have a season. It doesn't go out of season at any particular time of the year. They like racing in the wind. Keeps the dust out of their face. They don't mind the heat, and it doesn't get that cold here. So these races can be strategically placed during shoulder seasons. Now we're going towards a busy weekend coming up, Memorial Day. But also a great opportunity, like Linda DeMarino said, with the shuttle. to skim those people off Elephant Butte Lake that we rarely can get over into this community. We're talking about power sports here. People at the lake like power sports. Okay, so I'm just going to review the market as a whole. They talked about their event specifically. We're just kind of looking at the trends of the industry. Is this a growing industry? So this is just taken in the ATVs, the normal four-wheelers that you ride on top of with the handlebar, not the side-by-sides. So just within that market, they're still looking at growth moving forward, and this goes out till 2023. So lots of things that are causing that to happen. Sports, grazing. So this is big business. The OHV, so this is the side-by-side market we're talking about. So 2017 was predicted to have about 500,000 units sold worldwide of side-by-sides, representing about a 6% growth. And take into account, the ones that they sold 10 years ago are mostly still on the road as well, still doing their thing. So this is compounding year after year how big this market is. So just 500,000 in sales. The fastest growing segment of OHV market is recreational sport, the RZR type units. Those price points, probably about $20,000 for a really nice sport one, starting out, and then fully customizable. So why do we see this? Well, years ago when people did this kind of racing, they had to build their own unit from scratch, typically, or a kit, or something like that. So that was a lot of work, a lot of expense. Nowadays, you can go down to your local dealership and pull out your Amex card and walk off with one and have instant gratification of racing it that afternoon. Fully customizable. They track about close to about $1,000 additional retail sales with add-ons when they sell them a base unit, so customizing it somehow or another. They have a warranty, and they have the option for extended warranty, so you can really put them through the paces, but you can always take it back and say, you know, it broke, and get it fixed. So availability, parts and service, smaller footprint, they can go anywhere. A variety of models, so you have lots of options, from family size requirements to whatever the mission might be, whether it's having fun or doing work. And then they're always evolving, year after year. You know, we're a long way from the mule that was introduced by Kawasaki years ago. So that's a nice benefit. So there's always people that are going to want to upgrade from their existing model to this year's model. A market that you wouldn't even realize if you weren't looking into it is just the telematics market, just the electronics that are put into these off-road vehicles. $40 billion by 2022. This is just electronics. Some of these trucks are $1 million trucks full of electronics. So this is a huge market. And what's our opportunity? So I took this picture yesterday. And if you look in the center of that picture, there's a little hill there, and there's a full-size Chevy pickup parked there that you can barely make out. That's a full-size truck. So to give you a scope of how large that complex is, because a lot of us don't see it very often or have forgotten how large it is. 5 acres inside that bowl. So basically 4 football fields. A full football field within zones is about 1.3 acres. So if you can think about what could we do with that and 25 acres that we have surrounding it. So potential use. So we had some dual sport guys in here earlier that we saw in their riding gear that wanted to speak a public comment. Obviously, they were on their way to a ride, so they jetted out for that. But rallies, whether it's dual sport type folks, Jeep Jamborees, overland rallies. There's a huge overland rally in Flagstaff where people who like to go overland and camp and do these different things. So they have big rallies for those. What we're talking about for Memorial Day weekend, racing. So this racing event spans all of motorcycle ATVs, UTVs, modifieds, all the way up to the full-on Baja trucks. So how I got involved in this park in the first place is unmanned aerial vehicles. So UAS or UAV drone park. So we have plenty of room available to do those type of activities. It's 5.2 miles from the nearest runway, that location. So the facility from the airport property line is in excess of 5 miles. For our airspace at this moment, it doesn't matter. We have Class G airspace. But someday we could grow our airport, and it could be an issue, so it's better to plan in advance, because I could do a whole nother presentation just on the size of the drone market alone. That's a big market. So other opportunities: mud bogs, tractor pulls, military trucks, demolition derby, concerts. Let your mind go wild what you could do with that kind of space. So spin-off businesses. So if you have a lot of people showing up here and experiencing these outdoor events, and this is a park that's readily available, there's likely a company that'll want to step in and rent these type of units. Try before you buy. Or training. So sales, service, parts. There's many dealerships in both Albuquerque and Las Cruces that would love to have a Polaris dealership. However, there's already a Polaris dealership in those two cities. However, there is no protection on the franchise of those existing ones in TRC. So if a Yamaha dealership in Albuquerque wants to have a Polaris dealership, they need to move to a different city to have one. TRC obviously doesn't have anything. Randy, that works with me at the airport, want to get his tire changed on his motorcycle, he has to trailer to Las Cruces to get a motorcycle tire change. We don't have those capabilities. Other businesses, obviously, campgrounds. In this larger park, if we think about kind of rolling the gun club into this experience, where these people have exposure to the gun club, maybe we offer overnight camping during this event within the gun range area. We have plenty of space within that area. Fire range competition. So there's a lot of things that the gun range can do that it currently isn't doing, but it is a great unused asset, just like this park is. So we have that to keep moving forward with. It serves the locals very well. I have a lot of fun shooting out there, very convenient, but it could also be an economic engine in and of itself for competitions. So direct benefits. So activities for our children. Whether this is taking the VOAG kids and teaching them mechanics, teaching them suspension systems, teaching them engines, transmissions, whatever that might be, welding obviously is an important part, or whether it's doing the drone activities. To do any kind of work with a drone commercially, whether it's real estate, you need to have a drone license, a commercial drone license. You can get that when you're 16 years old. There's no reason why we can't have high schoolers getting their Part 107 certificate and going working for a real estate company part-time, taking drone footage of homes and practicing out at our track. So this next bullet speaks to the GRT. So I had asked Dean to do a survey at the end of their dual sport race that we had here in October called the Rubber Chicken. And they did an informal survey. And what they got out of that survey is, out of the 100 people that participated, it was about $20,000 a day spent in the community. 100 people, 100 riders. When we're talking about this race, we're talking about 150 to 200 teams. Teams can consist of up to 20 people. So extrapolate those numbers, because they have the similar requirements as the dual sport guys would have. Lodging, food, recreation. So when you get these people here often enough, at some point they're going to say, I should invest here, just like I did 15 years ago. I came down here for recreation, time and time again, and bought a second home here. Now, maybe I'll retire here. So this starts the chain of getting people into this town, investing into this community, and hopefully staying here. So what we're looking for from the commission on this project. So it's about $5,000 to put electricity back on site. Now, most of this is materials that the city already possesses, and as well as the city labor that we possess. So there's about $2,000 for an electrician to do the actual put in the box and get the connection, the plugs for us. So that's about 2,000 roughly. An additional 4,000 in labor. So we have some more prep work to do. We have the grandstands to dismantle. They're pushed out of the way at the moment, but they'll need to get cutting torches taken to and dismantled, and then we'll recycle those materials. So whatever labor we expend, we should get back with the recycled materials. Professional services, like having Jay take a look at the things, make sure the city's indemnified for this event. They've done this event with other city governments and indemnified them, but we still need to have our lawyer review those papers. So we'll need professional services. The project management, that's basically my time just to coordinate the efforts of everyone that needs to get coordinated to make this successful. Cleanup, we're having Andy's people out there getting some trash cleanup, but there's really not much. We've done a good job keeping up with the park. So during these labor projects for city employees, we'll be doing this during normal business hours, so these won't be overtime incurrences. So really about $2,000 out of pocket for the electrician. Everything else will be done with existing city labor and things that we already possess, like the poles and the cable and the transformer. So I put this in here, and not meant to be a religious statement. What this statement is telling us, yesterday is gone, tomorrow has not yet come, we have only today. Let us begin. So this speaks to need to take care of business. This is an opportunity that is not exactly fallen in our lap. We've done some work to prepare ourselves for this opportunity, but this is a huge opportunity that any community in New Mexico would love to have, and we have the opportunity to have it because we have an existing facility, we have a great location, and we have other things to offer them while they're here. So at this point, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and the time you put in it to get it to where it was. Commission, concerns, comments, Commissioner Clark?
Mr. Bluff, do you by any chance have a map, like a satellite, that we can see the actual layout of where this is going to be
Yes.
running?
Yeah, how it'll primarily go out. And they've worked with both the landowners that are adjacent to the track, Randy Ashbow. They went with him yesterday, and he supports this endeavor, as well as the representative for the Ingram Family Trust, Bob Ingram.
Red? Okay, so where's the existing motor track? Okay, so this is all the property around it, and you've already got permission from the landowners. And then the headquarters of this basically be the motocross that you've already got.
For the benefit, I'm going to try to bring that up on Google Maps.
Yes, do you have
so
it?
that way everybody can see it.
Yeah. You've seen it? Mr. Bluff, another question is, do we need to have that electric done before Memorial Weekend? Is that a necessary part of being able to pull this project off?
They're standalone. They're used to setting up in the middle of the desert and running a race. They could actually run off their own generator sets without our electricity.
So if there's a hang-up, and I'm talking to these gentlemen here, if there's a hang-up and we can't get that in place fast enough, you've got a backup plan for it? Okay, okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't need to put a hustle on our city manager to do something if we're a little slower in a municipality than you guys are, obviously, and you could outrace us, I'm sure.
Just a second. Don't speak for me.
Forgive me, you can't outrace the mayor. The other comment I wanted to make is, there are a couple of comments that I wanted to make that I heard that really impressed me. And I used to run a pack string, and that's when ATVs came out, and it just irritated me to death to have those ATVs coming up right in the middle of my pack string. You know, I mean, horses are quiet compared to ATVs. So I kind of had to separate them. But over the years, I've gotten a little more impressed with ATVs and a little less impressed with my horses because they took too much work. That being said, what you guys have said that really impressed me. One is that you had gotten permission from the landowners to be on their property, because there's another issue we're dealing with some other folks. That is really, really great in my book. What other thing that impressed me is that you are staying after the event to clean up the property and to try to put environment. That's a class act. So I want to thank you for that also. And I may just have to change my Memorial Weekend schedule to come up there and check this out.
I've already changed mine.
You've changed yours. And thank you, Mr. Bluff, for all the effort you put into this. And I'm not speaking for my fellow commissioners at this moment, because I found out they all run faster than me. But I really hope this comes off, and I hope it works really well, and I would love to see you more than once. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments?
No. You got it up?
Yeah, seeing none, then I will stand for a motion.
And Mr. Mayor, just so I want to, just for your all's information,
Yes,
in
sir.
case if you all are asked, one of the questions that we made sure it wasn't a requirement was a special use. And I know Jay did some research.
Yes.
And his opinion, his legal opinion, it's an event. It's not, but if you want to explain.
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head there. If we were talking about this being, continual operations, we're going to be doing this on a routine basis, then, we might need to look at the zoning and what requirements we have. But as a one-time event, I don't think we have to worry about special use permit.
That's
So
correct. But I think it's important because I think the goal for this event is to make it a recurring event, and obviously it is going to require some sort of collaboration and agreement. So right now, we're asking just authorization to proceed forward as Mark presented, but definitely after the successful event, this is going to be coming back to the commissioners for a more of a long-term relationship with these folks.
And I would say this, I'm sorry, I was glad to hear Mr. Bless say you were already looking at the issue about insurance. You feel that there's coverage there already, and yes, I would like to look at that, at the noise convenience.
Okay.
So, are there anybody have any other liability concerns that I'm not thinking of? That do we need to discuss about this? We have the insurance, okay, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we need to cover, and I'm not really thinking of anything.
Okay. So I do have one question of Manager Fuentes. I have the sense that we're all excited. I know I'm speaking for everyone else, but I have that sense up here. I don't want this to have to come back to the commission in a month, because $9,000 was not enough, and Memorial Day is staring us in the face.
That's correct.
In your professional opinion, do we need to is there a little wiggle room in here in case that, oh my God, we found caliche and we can't even put in a telephone pole to hang wires, et cetera. Is this sufficient to accomplish what we want?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I think having the authorization to proceed forward, I think Mark gave some estimated figures, but I don't think it's going to go too far out of those estimated figures. If it's within 1,000, 2,000 above, I think we can handle it internally within our department. So the big question for the Commissioners, authorization to proceed forward and partner with the organization to have this event. So that's a good point. But that will not necessarily limit our ability to move forward if the Commissioners authorizes us to.
That is the motion I'm going to make, to authorize staff to move forward with the needed improvements at the Mud Mountain
Recreational
Park, soon to be renamed, and that's it. I need a second.
I second that
100% I have a second. I'm sorry?
I 100% second that.
Right, okay.
100%.
Mayor, do we need to make two motions? One, for staff to go forward to try to do this, and then two, to give permission to these gentlemen to have this event?
That's a legal question, I assume, Jay?
Well, I think with what I would suggest I think the consensus is there. No, I think I'd like to kind of sit down and maybe work out a plan with Mark and then come back with legal as well, and then we can present it back to the commissioners. For kind of like a longer term, I think it's a great thing. I think that's the general consensus. So I think we can bring that back because
Well,
that's not
bringing
on
it
the...
back to do it again. This is a one-time event. They need to say, go for it, whatever it is. And we need to say, the city will do the best we can to put up that electric, but if we can't get it, you guys go ahead and do it anyway,
Oh, right.
right? So that's why I'm saying,
Sure.
do we need to have a split motion, or can we wrap that all together?
I think you do it in one motion.
So
Okay,
if you
so
would
I'm
like
amending
to
your
add on to
motion.
my, go ahead, please.
So the amendment to the motion is that staff go ahead and try to get this together with you, Mr. Bless, so that we can put this into place. And that we're giving permission to Outlaw Outfit to go ahead and do this event, whether we can get it together or not.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Clark. I'm going to send that, since no one seconded mine, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, you did, Doc.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
I just amended it.
Okay, so I have an amended motion by Commissioner Clark. Do I have a second? I'll second that. Second by a future racer or a present past racer. I think a past racer, right? Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It is unanimous.
Thank you.
And thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. The next item.
I think we should thank them for their patience for sitting through this meeting so long.
No, they're just getting closer to sub time, that's all. You don't see, number two, discussion action, City of Truth and Consequences Summer Youth Employment Program. Our presenters, plural, are, looks like Don Armio, O.J. Heschler, Tracy Johnson, and Director of Finance, Ms. Melissa Torres.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, Mr. Fuentes, City Clerk Canton, we are very excited to present this to you. First, let me tell you that this has been one of the things that's been in the make for over a year and a half. One thing that my boss always asks me, Mr. Fuentes, is what can we do for our youth? You know, that has always been on the table when we are looking at budget times. So with that being said, we came up with the Summer Youth Employment Program. The Summer Youth Employment Program will be a youth of the ages of 16 to 19 that we offer them work experience, teaches them values, employment skills, and provides you with a summer income. Along with this program, which is the SYEP, will be designed to emphasize real work experience, emphasize awareness, and provide opportunities for career instructions, financial training, and improvement of social growth. But not only that, I think one of the most important is, as you guys know, reaching out to our future is so important because we are going to teach them how to be great stewards of this community and along with ambassadors.
Mayor Green, Commissioners, Mr. Fuentes. First thing that comes to mind when I think of youth is safety. Obviously, we would ensure that every employee youth of the Youth Employment Program would have proper PPE, eye protection, gloves, road guard vests. So not only would they be safe, we're setting the example for them, but also the community as well. When we see 5 or 6 people out in the park working, we know that they're part of the children's youth program. So.
The program will be designed for what we are going to name them as seasonal laborers and seasonal clerks. The minimum qualifications will be an 8th grade education. The purpose of the labor will be under supervision, which is with Mr. Heschler, performs manual labor necessary to perform a variety of maintenance and landscaping tasks throughout such activities as maintaining our city parks, cleaning and maintaining our restrooms, our facilities, and our buildings, and maintaining and operating our landscape equipment.
So the lead seasonal laborer will communicate with myself throughout the day and will call me if any issues arise or if he or she has any questions. We always have supervision for these employees, meaning that if the lead seasonal laborer is not present to supervise, then a parks employee or myself will be present at all times. So we'll always have supervision for these folks.
The next position, as we mentioned, will be the seasonal clerk. And this credit goes to Ms. Johnson. She's put so much effort into the swimming pool. And one of the things that she identified was, why don't we put some of these seasonal laborers at the pool for being cashiers? And what an excellent idea, because we have been searching high and low for our lifeguards. And one of the biggest things that we're getting back is a lot of these young people are saying, whoa, that's saving somebody's life. That's a little too much responsibility. But we would love to be part of the swimming pool. And so with that being said, this position will greet and assist our swimming pool customers and the public and provide them with information, direct phone call inquiries, provide excellent customer service to represent the City of Truth or Consequences to all our customers and to the public, provide various basic clerical tasks such as data entry, filing, copying, under the close supervision, which will be Ms. Tammy Garner, who is the intern manager. This position will also sell passes and process transition on the cash registers. I don't know if you want to say something about that.
I think for me personally, I was involved in a similar program when I was a teenager, and when we first started talking about this, it brought a lot of fond memories of being able to go out to earn some money. I was one of my only friends that was out working and making some money, and I had money to spend. When it was time to go to movies, you know, some friends couldn't go because their parents couldn't give them the money, and it's like I was always able to go. So, you know, this is a great opportunity for the youth to be able to have that extra pocket change, to provide them with a skill set that they can then carry forward with them for the rest of their life, and hopefully provide a great experience for them that they'll have memories 30 years later of their own to be able to look back on. So being able to get in the pool, you know, and learn some basic computer skills and working cash registers and things like that, will give them an introduction to the city, to future employment. For me, I think it's, you know, it's a wonderful opportunity, you know, for the kids, and gives them something to do with their time, and not have to worry, you know, and have the pressure of saving someone's life. So it gets them involved and gives them a little extra pocket change as well.
The financial aspect. So our vision is Park and Recreation will have 5 seasonal laborers, 1 seasonal labor that will be the lead labor, with the wages of $8.50 for the seasonal labor, and as our lead, we'll take $9.28. For the swimming pool, 2 seasonal clerks with the wages of $8.50. So how we came up with this is one of our biggest competitors is going to be Elephant Butte and Caballo. And they have done their seasonal program for quite some time. With that being said, we want to be competitive because we want the best of the best, right? Because they want to represent the city. And so that's where we looked at these wages, so we were comparable with the seasonal laborers for the state parks of Elephant Butte and Caballo. Mr. Heschler's department will be funding this. He's done an excellent job being a steward of his budget. And so we have plenty of room on his personal side. But also, if there is a little twitch that we have to make, we can also do like a 1% or 2% deduction on operations to ensure that we have the money on the personnel side of it. But we're more than confident we have it on the personnel side to cover these wages. We're looking at this program to start at the beginning of June and end at the first part of August when the young people go back to school.
And so how that looks like, from my standpoint, is every morning we'll have a timesheet. Obviously, they're going to fill out their timesheet and be responsible for that. We're going to be on time. Our staff will lead by example. Obviously, we're going to be on time, and we are anyway. But we're going to make sure that we know that my staff knows that eyes are on them. So even the language and all of that, we will definitely be aware of. We'll come in, we'll do our timesheets every morning. We will reemphasize safety, and we will do a PPE check on every member of the youth to make sure that they do have their Road Guard vest, their eye protection, as well as their gloves.
So we emphasize payday. You know, as Ms. Johnson said, you know, what a great opportunity to give back to our youth, but also to have some money to put in their pocket to take care of those things that they need to take care of. And I think most important, I think we have a great staff that can be role models and be examples of some of these youth that may need that. So at this time, we stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
She said,
Commissioner Clark.
Mr. Heschler, I just have one question and one comment. The transportation, because you've got several different parks, are you asking these young people, 8th grade education and over, some of them may not drive, are you asking them to show up on site, or are they going to show up at City Hall and be transported to different places? How's the transportation?
We'll probably, and I've thought about this too, and I didn't think it would come up the question too, so, but it just shows you guys are on your game, so. I've thought about this, and I think the best way to do it, because our office my office is located at the ball field. So we keep track of our timesheets and all of that, and we collaborate at the office right now every morning when we go to work. So I think we would meet there. The people that do have vehicles, and we'll have to see how many people turn out for this. If we do get 5 or 6 people, we do have a 4-door F-250, and we have another one that's an extended cab where we can fit with seat belts in there. Another 4 people in that one as well. So we can provide transportation to the parks if we need be. And like I said too, if a couple of them do drive and that becomes an issue, we might, because I don't plan on bouncing them around throughout the parks all day long. I plan on, kind of packing up on one park per day, like Ralph Edwards, we got Fiesta coming up. And what a great opportunity to really nitpick that park with the youth and get it ready for Fiesta. So we do plan on, hopefully, we'll just use our vehicles, the city vehicles. If need be, I think that maybe we could use, if any of them drive, I think they could meet us at one of the parks. Like I said, we don't plan on bouncing around to the parks too much throughout the day.
Right.
And if I may, Commissioner Clark and Mayor and Commissioners, I think in regards to that question as well in transportation, we definitely don't want to limit the pool of people and the pool of kids. It is a reality. We live in a low-income community, and some of these families, sometimes they only have one vehicle, and so it might be difficult. And we don't want to kind of discourage, especially those kids who are hardworking, to have the opportunity to apply for this. So it might be a case where we might kind of have to look on a case-by-case basis, and as OJ mentioned, use some of our resources to be able to accommodate. But we want to encourage all the kids who would like to work to just be able to apply and not be limited just because, my mom has to go to work, or, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I don't have a way to get across town, because as you mentioned, it's on the south side of TRC.
So my comment then is, I really appreciate that you're reaching out to the young people in our community, and over the years, I started out hiring high school kids to work at my place, and I had high school at my place for about 20 years. And they're some of the best employees I've ever had, and it's just refreshing to have that vibrance of life. And just learning the first job is so exciting, and that paycheck is just fabulous. When you get your first one, it's like, this is mine. So I wish you a lot of luck on that. Just my experience pulling these kids out of the high school has been remarkable, and they still come back and visit. So I wish you the same luck that I've had. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
My question is the hour work week. Will they be putting in a 40-hour work week, or will they be limited to hours that they work?
Yes, ma'am. They will be putting a 40-hour work week. And that's probably one of the big reasons we looked at the ages between 16 and 19. As you guys know, anything less than that requires a work permit, and then certain hours they cannot work. And, as Mr. Heschler mentioned, Ralph Edwards, those are the big projects that he's really looking at the youth to help us with to ensure we're ready for Fiesta time.
Thank you.
Any other concerns or questions, Commissioner Heschler?
Just a suggestion, Ms. Torres, Mr. Heschler. In a previous life, remember the programs we had involving the 7-minute training tracker? These are wonderful little programs that involve safety. And one way to present safety classes in that form is to have the youth that's actually hired study the program and present the class, because they learn it, but it also gives them that responsibility and that professional development that we all want from our youth to have. So you might look into that program. I don't know if it's going to cost the city any money or where we get it, but I think it's a good program to try to institute.
Definitely, and that's something we discussed too in our plan meeting. Mr. Heschler was very humble, but that's one of his visions, to have that start of the day where they have their powwow, and upon that powwow is having their safety training. If it's utilizing the weed eaters, knowing how to utilize the weed eaters and the PPP, So those are the things that I know that's definitely his vision, because again, our program is going to be structured as providing education and the skills to be in a professional work environment where they can take that knowledge and skill onto future jobs.
Any other questions or concerns? I will stand for a motion.
What does it need to
I
say?
will, the motion would be to authorize support by the commission for approval of the finances that are involved in a summer youth employment program.
I second that motion.
And a very quick second to shut me up. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate that.
Good work, Mayor Pro Tem.
I figured it out. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I believe it carries unanimously. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you for
being
your
so
support.
proactive. And thank you for thinking about the youth of our community. Next item, and the last item, is discussion action, landscape architectural design for I-25 Business Loop project. Manager Fuentes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners, and I think we heard the details of the I-25 Business Loop project and what DOT is proposing for the city to consider as a partnership in regards to the landscaping aspect of that project. So at this time, Commissioners, I would like to kind of entertain that idea, whether we proceed forward and partner with them, especially now that the design part of it is underway, for us to participate with them to do a landscaping project on the roundabouts.
Okay. Any concerns, questions? Otherwise, at the hour, I will accept the motion for the city of TRC to partner with the NMDOT, I believe it was District 1, for landscaping of the proposed, and it's not obviously 100% yet, but the proposed roundabouts.
And I second that motion.
And a very quick second by Mayor Pro Tem White, who's getting hungry. She hears my stomach growling. All those any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. So if I heard correctly, Manager Fuentes, there was a timeline set that they had to have something.
Yes.
Okay, so
we'll work with them on
so
that. Yes.
sorry to put additional pressure on you, but there is that timeline. Reports, City Manager.
No reports, man.
Okay, you're hungry.
Yeah.
City Attorney.
Yeah, I just want to update you that at the last meeting, we talked about the ordinance regarding carrying concealed weapons, and I am going to be working with the chief on that, so we will be, see where we are pretty soon.
And if you could do that, I believe I forwarded some postcards from some citizens to my fellow commissioners and Manager Fuentes. there seems to be some concern about that in relationship to safety in this building and other buildings. So whenever you get to it.
Well, feel free to pass it on to me also. There are some legal constitutional issues we have to look at. That's the reason why it's a delay here. So,
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
No report.
Commissioner Heschler?
No report.
Commissioner Clark? Commissioner?
None whatsoever.
Okay, so I'm going to take up all your time. No, I'm going to be real quick. I sent my fellow commissioners, and I sent the Sentinel and the Herald an article that appeared about truth or consequences. I'm not going to read the article, and I'm not selling newspapers by the Sentinel or by the Herald. But the article is charming, quirky, desert town, truth or consequences, New Mexico, soak in, and then it says, pun intended, the offbeat New Mexican hot springs town that renamed itself after a wacky game show. But I want to read you 3 lines out of the article. It's one of the best articles I've ever seen about our community. And it goes as follows. I love all the different little towns in New Mexico, among them Truth or Consequences, and I never knew this, which New Mexico magazine called the, and in quotes, per capita, the most creative little town in the United States. And I'm going to call up the New Mexico magazine editor and ask him if I can, or her, if we can use that on everything in the United States. And that's what TRC, as a local scholar, feels like, a place slightly out of the norm where life slows down enough so you have time to let the creative juices flow. And my last item is just want to let the public know that the recycling committee of the Bountiful Alliance, which works with Solid Waste Department, on Saturday, April 21 at 9 to noon at Geronimo Springs Museum, we are having a swap-a-rama in honor of Earth Day, which means anyone who has clothes or toys or blankets or things that they think maybe another family could use, you bring them down to Geronimo Museum, we will put them out on tables, and people can come in and take what they want. So it's a free event, and what I have outgrown might be a perfect fit for someone else. So the date is, and the only reason I'm doing it now is we don't have a next commission meeting before it. So Saturday, 4/21, at noon at Geronimo Museum. That is the end of my report. I have a lot more, but I'm going to, because of time, I will deal with it at the next city commission meeting. I need a motion to go into executive session, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into executive session for 2 items. J1, sale, disposal, acquisition of real property, Bank of the Southwest Annex Building, and a parking lot across from SJOA pursuant to 1015-1H8, and J2, threatened or pending litigations. There's 2 of them, City versus Ashfall and City versus McGeechee pursuant to 1015-1H7.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Whitehead. I need a second.
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Heschler. Can I have a roll call, please?
Honorable Steve Green?
Yes.
Honorable Sandra Whitehead?
Aye.
Honorable Ralph Eschler?
Yes.
Honorable Kathy Clark?
Yes.
Honorable Paul Baka?
Okay, we have a motion and we have a roll call, and we're in executive session. I want to thank the public for joining us, but this is